in the hybrid sitting enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in the sitting of the National Council of Provinces. For purposes of the quorum, all delegates who are logged on the virtual platform shall be considered present. Delegates must switch on their videos if they want to speak. Delegates should ensure that the microphone on the gadgets are muted and must always remain muted, especially as it happened before we start. All delegates in the chamber must connect to the virtual platform as well as insert their cards to register on the chamber system. Delegates who are physically in the chamber must use the floor microphone. All delegates may participate in the discussion through the chat room. The interpretation facility is active. Permanent delegates, members of the executive, special delegates, and SALGA representative on the virtual platform are requested to ensure that the interpretation facility on their gadgets are properly activated to facilitate access to the interpretation services. Permanent delegates, special delegates, SALGA representatives, and members of the executive in the chamber shall use the interpretation gadgets on their desk to access the interpretation facilities. Delegates, I will now allow an opportunity to delegates to give notice of motion. Notice of motion. We have only Ndongeni. Okay, Ndongeni, we are the first one.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby give notice that the next sitting of the council, I shall move that the council debates gender transformation and the advancement of women in the country's justice system, especially in senior leadership positions. 2, notes that the need for gender transformation in the judiciary was made even more urgent and essential by the adoption of the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 75/274 of 2021, which established the International Day of Women Judges to be observed every year on the 10th March to promote the full and equal participation of women at all levels of the judiciary. I so moved.
Thank you. Honorable Lehihi.
I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters that council in the next sitting debates how private sectors continue to exploit its employees and fails to comply with the labor laws in place. I so move.
Thank you. Honorable Bartlett.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Chair, I hereby move on behalf of the African National Congress that the House is in its next sitting debates ways to dissuade and discourage RDP title deeds holders from selling and renting out their houses after receiving their title deeds. I thank the Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Motsamai.
Thank you, Chairperson. I raise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters that council in the next sitting debate the relevancy of issuing out of traffic fines to the motorists in areas such as Mfuleni local municipality, where roads are in poor conditions and are filled with potholes, posing a danger to motorists. I so move.
Thank you. Honorable Mokause on the virtual platform.
Thank you, House Chair. I move on behalf of the economic freedom fighters that in its next sitting, the council debates and finds solution on the ongoing water problems in Setsoto municipality of the Free State and the bad road infrastructure. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Next on the virtual platform is Honorable Sheikh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. On behalf of the African National Congress, I move without notice that in the next sitting of council, that the council debates the persisting high levels of crime in South Africa, despite numerous interventions to wage a concerted battle against the heartless criminals who continue to callously, cold-bloodedly and heartlessly hold our people to ransom. And further notes that even though the murder rate has halved between 1994 and 2009, South Africa has exceptionally high rates of murder, gender-based violence, rape, robbery, and violent conflict. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Nkosi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the African National Congress that the House in its next sitting debates the development measures geared at ensuring that learners don't drop out at school before writing their matric examination. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegates, I will allow an opportunity for delegates who wish to move notice, motion without notice. Delegates who wish to move motion without notice should use the raise hand button on the virtual platform. Here you just raise your hand. Okay. Okay. No, we're taking the hands. Thank you. We're down. We're here. Are we done? We start by wishing Honorable Parenos a happy birthday, and you're going to be the first one. Happy birthday to you on behalf of the NCOP.
Thank you, Chair, and my gratitude to the House for the warm wishes. Chair, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move without notice that this council notes that the recent claims made by the Land Party in Oeverstrand that the DA's court application opposing the planned National Day of Action on the 20th of March is racist. Further notes that while peaceful protest is a constitutional right, any criminality committed under the guise of lawful protest will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It is noted that the Land Party's declining support over the last two elections has led them to cheap allegations in an attempt to score political points ahead of the upcoming Ward 5 by-election in Zwelishwe. Notes that the Oeverstrand, as well as other DA governments, committed to maintaining the rule of law during protests and will do everything in our power to ensure that law-abiding citizens are not adversely affected. And lastly, to express our gratitude to the Oeverstrand Executive Mayor, Mayor Annelie Rabie, for continuous consultation with law enforcement and SAPS to ensure the protection of citizens' rights in the Oeverstrand. And if any South Africans are victims of any possible crimes resulting in the protest, the DA has created an intimidation affidavit template for reporting intimidation and violence available on all DA social media platforms. Chair, so I move.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? Thank you.
Objection.
That being an objection, the motion may not be proceeded with and will become notice of a motion. Honorable
Object.
Abuskakne. Oh, you're fine. Okay. Honorable Mama.
Thank you, Baba Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that notes that today marks the 131st anniversary of the birth of Dr. James Sever Moroka, who was elected the President General of the African National Congress from 1949 to 1952. Dr. James Seven Moroka was a medical doctor, landowner, and astute politician who was born in Tabanchu, in what was then known as the Orange Free State, who presided over the African National Congress in one of its most active and effective phases since it's established in 1912. And it takes this opportunity to pay homage to the legacy of Dr. James Seven Moroka and acknowledge his indelible contribution in the fight of freedom and democracy for the marginalized, suppressed, and discriminated masses of our people. I so move, Chairperson.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection, the motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you, Chair. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters that Council notes that on the 20th of March, 2023, the economic freedom fighters, together with the South African Federation of Trade Unions, the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, the Land Party, as well as other community activists and ordinary South Africans, will embark on a national shutdown to demand an end to load shedding and the resignation of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. Further note, South Africa is currently facing an electricity crisis, high unemployment rate, high levels of crime, high cost of living, GBV, debilitating quality of education, and poor service delivery. Acknowledge that Mr. Ramaphosa's term of office has been nothing but a disruptive to people of South Africa. We further recognize the false alarm that has been raised by those who suffer from Swart Gevar and their handlers that view a peaceful demonstration as a threat to their agenda. The economic freedom fighters calls upon all South Africans to join in on the shutdown this coming Monday as we mark the day of our freedom. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion?
Objection,
Object,
Chairperson.
I object, Honorable
Thank you.
Chairperson.
We
Honorable
object.
Chairperson. We
That
object.
being an objection, the motion
were-
may not be
We
proceeded
were
with and will
expecting
become
that
a
from
notice
the
of motion.
objection.
We
Order.
object.
Honorable
We are
Matebula.
expecting those from those who are singing for their
Honorable
supper,
Makause, please.
the
Honorable
corrupt
Matebula.
ones who
Really,
are
you are-
covering
you are-
up
you are scared.
corruption.
Honorable
Your
Matebula.
time is up.
This
You
is
are
not a
with
banana republic.
less than 2 years, you'll be out of
Honorable
that council.
Makause, please, let's protect Honorable Matebula. It's on the floor. Honorable Matebula.
Now, Cancer Chairperson, I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters. The council knows that a 12-year-old girl, Khuputso Musiamedi, was found dead in a bush after being abducted from her home last week during a house robbery at Makakapatse village outside Guyana. Further knows that their lifeless body was found tied with a rope hanging in a tree at nearby farm at Kamapalle. Acknowledge that South Africa is a country grappling with high level of crime, particularly violent crime, which increases levels of home invasion, armed robbery, and murders. Recognize a case of murder and kidnapping has been opened with 2 arrests made, one of which is a female relative known to the family. We are outraged and saddened by the senseless killing of Khuputso and hereby send our deepest condolences to the Musiamedi family. May her soul rest in perfect peace. I so move. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection, the motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Fesser? Yes, Honorable Brown.
Chairperson, I'm not exactly sure of the rule, but there is a high-pitched whine at the back here. And it's really distracting a lot of us. And I have confirmed that it's not an ANC speech, but it's a high-pitched whine. And it's quite distracting. I don't know if the sound technicians can do something. Thank you.
No. Already they are attending to it so that we can have peace. We sustain the point of order. Thanks, Honorable Prudences, for bringing to our attention. They are dealing with it. Honorable Fesser?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move without notice that this council notes the crisis of collapse of all 4 district and 19 local municipalities, reflecting a negative trajectory of all essential services in the Northwest Province. These 23 municipalities share the same similarities: historical unfunded budgets, of which the Northwest Provincial Legislature, the National Department of Kochta, and the Auditor General are fully aware of. Unreliable bulk water supply, not caused by lack of bulk water supply, but due to the inability of sound management and absence of the political will. No maintenance of all water, sewer, electricity, and road infrastructure. Fraud and corruption being the endemic status quo of municipal administrations, despite proof of mismanagement, no accountability or consequence management as documented in the AG reports, and failing to supply the basic fundamental services needed by the communities of Northwest. Further notes the impact of dysfunctional sewer plants caused by incapacity due to the lack of discipline and engineering expertise, causing pollution of all sewer treatment plants, totally dysfunctional, decanting raw sewer, not complying with the Sound's general legal limit in every stream, river, wetland, lake, and dam, draining into the aquifers, contaminating the water resources, and increasing the toxic level of water communities must drink. That this House notes that business cannot keep economies running with dysfunctional public administration and a 54% unemployment rate. I therefore request that this House calls upon the Minister of Kochta and the MEC for Kochesta to take up this cause so that the residents of the Northwest may live in dignity again. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion?
Honourable Chair, yes, I object.
There being an objection, the motion may not be proceeded with and will become notice of a motion. Honourable Boshoff.
Sorry, thank you very much, House Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move without notice that this council notes with a heavy heart the death of 2 learners last week who were killed when 2 minibuses collided with a truck on the N4 toll road between Forsman and the Emalahleni CBD. Again notes that 1 life lost is 1 too many, and our thoughts and prayers will be with the families of the victims during these difficult times. We also wish those who were injured a speedy recovery. Further notes that the DA would like to request those who are transporting learners to avoid overloading, speeding, and observe traffic rules and signs at all times. Calls upon the Mpumalanga Traffic Road officials to be more visible and enforce traffic laws at all times, and to furthermore take swift action against those who violate the rules of the road. Again notes that the departments in Mpumalanga responsible for scholar transport systems should overhaul the whole system and put regulations in place, as some of those transporting our learners do not have the prerequisite permits and others using unroadworthy vehicles, and calls on both the provincial departments of education and public works, roads and transport to take leadership to regulate the issue of scholar transport in the province to stop the spate of accidents which are leading to the death of our learners. I so move. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection, the motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Proudenseth.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and thank you for having that sound issue remedied. Honourable Chairperson, I rise on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, and I hereby move without notice that this council notes with great concern the continual degradation of infrastructure at the Doon Heights Primary School in the coastal town of Manzantoti in the eThekwini Metro in KwaZulu-Natal. Note that the school is in a serious state of disrepair, to the point where crumbling upper landings and railings at the school now pose a significant threat to the life and limb of the learners, teachers, and staff. Notes and requests that notes that requests by the school for remedial action have been ongoing since 2013 with no resolution. Notes that the chances of a catastrophic structural failure, such as the Hoërskool Driehoek tragedy in 2019, is imminent. Notes further that the problems at the school are well known to the department and culminated in an agreement on the scope of work on 25 February 2022. Despite this agreement, work has not commenced almost 1 year later. Finally, notes that during an oversight visit to the school, this member was informed that the approval of the project was in an advanced stage, but the tender had not yet been awarded. Calls on the new Minister of Public Works, Honorable Sihle Zikalala, to advise on the status and the progress of this project, and calls on the Minister to act without delay to avoid a tragedy being visited on this community. I so move.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection, the motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Nel, welcome special delegates from Gauteng.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move without notice that this council notes, while the death of Etals has been announced, its ghost continues to haunt the Gauteng province, as the turning off of the gantries have not yet been gazetted. Further notes that the financial model for the replacement of Etals has still not been finalized, and Gauteng committed to debt for which it had no idea how to service. Also notes that Gauteng residents will be unfairly prejudiced in having to foot the bill for this unfair project over which we had no say, and that service delivery in the province will suffer as a result of scarce funds having to be spent on the repayment of this vanity project. Therefore, we reject any new taxes or increases in current taxes or fees to fund Etal debts. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection, the motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Yes. Honorable Ryder, I was shocked. Honorable Malika on the visual platform. Honorable Malika.
Thank you, House Chair. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the House welcome the arrest of two suspected loan sharks who allegedly took their client SASSA cards in Mpumalanga on Monday, 6 March 2023. Also note that the two suspects were named after allegedly making numerous withdrawals at the ATMs with a number of SASSA cards and were allegedly using the SASSA cards as a guarantee for clients who have borrowed money from them. Understand that about 35 SASSA cards as well as an undisclosed amount of cash were found, and the cash as well as the cards were confiscated for further investigations. Also note that the two culprits face charges of contravention of Section 133 of the National Credit Act and are due in court. Encourages community members who know of people who keep on use either SASSA or bank card IDs without authorization to immediately report the conduct to the authorities. And Chairperson warns those who conduct their business in an illegal manner that they will be caught and will face the full might of law without fear or favor. I so move.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection, the motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mokause on the visual platform.
It's an old hand.
No, we'll give some time and take you through lessons of removing an old hand.
Hey, don't talk to me like that.
Honorable
It's an old hand. If your people are incapable of assisting you there, don't blame me. I'm more than
Honorable
trained to-
Mthethwa.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
more
you.
than even trained to sit on that chair.
Honorable
and
Mokau,
guide
who's
the
the
council
order?
properly, man.
Honorable
Hell.
Mthethwa on the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council note that on the 22nd of March marks the World Water Day, which is a day that seeks to raise awareness about accelerating the change to solve the global water and sanitation crisis, Chair. We further note the World Water Day on Water Day 2023, which is a day before the NCOP has its debate on water infrastructure investment under the theme, Building the Viable Water Infrastructure for Sustainable and Reliable Water to Community. It's focusing on accelerating the change to solve the water and sanitation crisis through water infrastructure investment. We acknowledge that the poor water quality and drought as a result of global warming, coupled with lack of investment in a suitable water infrastructure, undermines the progress on all major global issues, from the health to hunger, gender equality to job, education to industrial, and disaster to peace. We recall that in 2015, the world committed to Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 6, as part of the 2030 agenda. The premises that everyone will have, we promise that everyone will have a safe, managed water and sanitation by 2020, and call on the Department of Water and Sanitation and the various water boards and municipalities to intensify their investment in water and sanitation infrastructure and work 4 times faster to meet the SDG 6 on time. I so move, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection, the motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Christian, virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move without notice that this council notes the dire situation in Berkeley West, where poor water and waste management by the Dikgatlong municipality has led to a concerning degradation of the town. Notes that inconsistent garbage collection has caused businesses to dispose of waste on the streets, which poses a health and safety risk to the community, especially children. The sewage blockage is also significant, with businesses and residents reporting that their complaints go unheard, leaving them to deal with the waste themselves. Further notes that while both honeysuckers are operational, the backlog for the drainage of sewage is huge. Businesses have reported giving up on laying complaints regarding sewage flowing behind their premises because the municipality simply does not get to all the work. Tragically, community members have reported that despite having paid upfront for the drainage of the sewer at their homes, the municipality just does not pitch up. Furthermore, water shortages in the town have been blamed on load shedding. But it has been revealed that the generator procured for the water supply was delivered below specification and has broken down due to its low capacity. With only 3 water provision trucks for the vast distances in the municipality, some residents have gone without water for up to 3 weeks at a time, resulting in some having to collect water from the Vaal River. Therefore, the situation in Berkeley West is untenable, and urgent action is required to prevent further degradation of the town. I therefore call upon this House to request the Minister of Water and Sanitation to intervene in the operations of the municipality and urgently address the waste management and sewage blockage and backlog, and provide a sustainable solution to the water shortage crisis. The residents of Berkeley West deserve a clean and safe environment to live and work in, and it is the responsibility of the municipality to ensure that this is achieved. I so move. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection, the motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. The last one will be Honorable Miemang.
Thank you, House Chair. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the House notes victory for the Constitution, rule of law, and good governance loving people of South Africa when the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure suffered a major blow in the Western Cape High Court when the judge set aside the DA-led government's decision to award construction company HNI Civils and Building Ltd a multi-million rand tender for the construction of the new Manenberg Schools of Skills. Further notes that according to court papers, Fury Point scored more points and was also lower in cost than HNI, but the department decided to pass over their bid and accepted the bit more expensive bid of HNI. Also note that the court found that the decision to pass over Fury Point was procedurally unfair based on incorrect facts, inconsistent with the threshold requirements of the Constitution, and arrived at using vague and uncertain criteria. Notes further that the court also noted the passing over of a black qualifying company and award to a white established company was contrary to the provisions of the Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act, that the court on the basis of the above declared the decision of the DA-led government invalid and accordingly reviewed and set aside. The DA-led government must take responsibility for the delay in the project and the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I so move, House Chair.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? There being an objection, the motion
No
may not be
objection,
proceeded
Honorable
with
Speaker.
and
No
will
objection.
become
Stand
notice of a motion. Order, members. Honorable delegates, before we proceed to subject for the debate, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome and also at the same time congratulate the new Minister of Cooperative Governance and Regional Affairs who's in the house. And also welcome Minister of Small Business Development. It's on the virtual platform, MECs, SALGA representatives, all permanent and special delegates to the House. We shall now proceed to the subject for the debate. Debate on Interprovincial Red Tape Reduction, transforming the service delivery value chain for faster growth and development. I'll now call upon Honorable TSC Dodovu, Chairperson of the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Regional Affairs, to open the debate, who's on the virtual platform. Honorable Dodovu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of the session, Honorable Jomo Nyambi, Minister of Small Business Development, Stellan Dabene Abrams, Minister of COGTA, Honorable Thembi Nkadimeng, Deputy Minister, Chief Patekile Holomisa, Chief Whip of the NCOP, permanent and special delegates, including MECs, representatives of SALGA, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday was the 15th of March, the day that William Shakespeare, in his seminal book, Julius Caesar, called the Ides of March. As we came to understand it, one soothsayer had forewarned and cautioned Julius Caesar to beware of Ides of March, shortly before the Roman Empire was murdered in the Senate by what was called the conspirators. 8 years ago, on one Sunday, the 15th of March in 2015, as South Africans, we woke up with our hearts heavy in mourning because the minister in the presidency, Honorable Collins Chabane, and his two drivers had departed from our midst after their vehicle collided in a very gruesome accident. Today, as we engage in this important debate on the Interprovincial Red Tape Reduction to transform the service delivery value chain for faster growth and development, we remember Honorable Collins Chabane, affectionately known as the Animal. As our minister in the presidency and later of Public Service and Administration, this topic was very close to Minister Chabane's heart, especially the transformation of the public service. Without drawing any similarities, Honorable Chair, between how Julius Caesar was murdered and the fatal accident of Honorable Chabane on the same date of the 15th of March, the Ides of March, a bad omen on this spooky prophecy always ran through my mind on this superstitious day. But as we remember Honorable Chabane, especially as he always led us with a powerful song that Inzima Lendlela Inameva, we must on this day once more salute him as a freedom fighter who led by example and who has left us a legacy of a true meaning of revolutionary courage, humor, and modesty as we battle with the challenges facing our country. Indeed, as we grapple with these challenges of the hour, like to reduce the interprovincial red tapes in the public service and in-service delivery value chain, we must do so because we owe a special debt of gratitude to Collins Chabane and many others for their humble contributions in bringing about freedom and justice in our land and for transforming our country to be on the path of political freedom, economic prosperity, and social justice. Honorable Chairperson, during 2006, our government under President Thabo Mbeki adopted a program called the Accelerated and Shared Growth Initiative for South Africa, popularly known as GISA, as one of the concretes to reduce interprovincial red tape in service delivery value chain and to put our country back on a path of growth and development. According to GISA then, in order to address the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and equality in our land, South Africa needed a sustainable growth of around 6% per annum. However, it acknowledged that this was impeded by what was called the binding constraints. From the growth diagnostic analysis made at the time, the GISA document identifies 6 binding constraints which needed serious attention, and they were the following. 1, volatility and level of the rand currency. 2, the cost efficiency and capacity of the national logistics system. 3, shortage of suitable skilled labor amplified by the impact of apartheid spatial patterns on the cost of labor. 4, barriers to enter limits barriers to entry, limits to competition, and limited new investment opportunities. 5, regulatory environment and the burden on small and medium businesses. And lastly, deficiency in state organization, capacity, and leadership. Honorable Chairperson, countering these binding constraints, GISA called for a series of decisive interventions which encapsulated infrastructure programs, sector investment and industrial strategies, skills and education initiatives, second, economic intervention, macroeconomic issues, as well as addressing public administration issues. With regard to small, medium, and micro enterprises, Honorable Chair, the SMMEs, we have all come to know that they have an important role to play in an economy, and in fact, they are key drivers of economic growth, innovation, and job creation. And to this end, in 2014, the government created a new Ministry of Small Business Development in order to tackle these particular challenges. This ministry, Honorable Chair, was established to facilitate the promotion and development of small businesses in order for them to contribute significantly to the national gross domestic product, GDP, and to tackle the country's alarming high national unemployment rate of about 30%. Honorable Chairperson, I argue that this will remain a pipe dream, if not a pie in the sky, if the action plan that we develop do not support businesses and increase their financial and non-financial support. It will remain a pipe dream if it doesn't create a demand for the product and services of these SMMEs they provide. And it will remain a pipe dream if it doesn't reduce the regulatory constraints for the SMMEs. I also argue, Honorable Chair, that if the institutions established to support MME development, like the Small Enterprise Development Agency, SEDA, do not come down to their ivory towers to concretely and practically support them, the vision to create a truly non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous country will not be achieved. Honorable Chairperson, MMCs lack access to finance and credit. They lack access to physical infrastructure, which impede their business growth and increases their cost to doing business. They have low levels of research and development, which deny them to innovate, and our labor laws as well are a significant regulatory obstacle to their own growth. Not only that, Honorable Chairperson, vulnerable sectors of our society, especially the disabled, the youth and women, are affected quite tremendously. Crime and gender-based violence, respectively, is also affecting these sectors of our communities. These are pervasive problems, in my view, which do not only increase their security spending, but they also have rippling effects on their cost of running their own businesses, and this must be attended to. To compound the above problems, Honorable Chair, there are certain weaknesses in the way government is organized and the capacity of key institutions to deliver deliver these particular services. It is a problem that needs attention for the SMMEs to thrive. These problems, Honorable Chair, are also exacerbated by insufficiently decisive leadership in policy development and implementation, and all of this impede the country's growth, development, and prosperity. Honorable Chairperson, given the above scenario that I've just painted, it is quite evident that red tape in government is a big impediment to the growth and development of SMMEs. It is a bottleneck. It is frustrating. It delays development. It is costly, and it is hazardous, and therefore it needs to be dealt with accordingly. Not only that, Honorable Chairperson, I argue, red tape provokes slower decision-making. It hinders innovation because of bogging things down. Major projects cannot be explored because of too much red tape. They cannot happen very quickly because too many parties are involved in decision making. And this is compounded by the fact that things are getting slow in terms of signing off. And this, it is because of procedure, it is because of regulation, and it is because of red tape. We cannot go on like that, Honorable Chairperson. In order to succeed to transform our country and set it on the path of growth, development, and prosperity, we need to reduce the amount of red tape that we see today. As Thomas Sankara, the late president of Burkina Faso, asserted, we need courage and madness to get things done. Thomas Sankara said, and I quote, "We must dare to invent the future." Besides, it took the madman of yesterday for us to be able to act with extreme clarity today. I want to be one of those madmen. And I also stand up this afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, to say, I want to be a madman that tackles red tape, because red tape hinders development. But Sankara continued, Honorable Chairperson, and he said, you cannot carry out fundamental change without a certain amount of madness, as I indicated. In this case, it comes from non-conformity, the courage to turn your back on the old formulas, and the courage to invent the future. And in my respective view, this is how you deal with red tape within the system in order to accelerate growth and development. You cannot, Honorable Chairperson, invest in the future with the amount of red tape you have today. Red tape is an albatross, especially for the young people who want to innovate their future. Honorable Chairperson, as I conclude, I want to reiterate that it is important and it is possible to reduce red tape and simplify regulations in order to unlock SMME opportunities. And as members of parliament, we have a critical role to play in reducing red tape within government. Because we are traditionally entrusted with the responsibilities of making laws and of performing oversight functions on all actions and decisions of the executive. We need to strengthen our role in this regard. And overseeing executive actions, Honorable Chairperson, can be a vital role that we play as members of parliament to help to enforce accountability and transparency, and to promptly detect and prevent the abuse of power by the executive, especially when it is caused by red tape. If in my respective view, Honorable Chairperson, if we play our oversight role meaningfully, we can help Parliament and this Parliament to hold government answerable for how taxpayers' money is spent, and we can make the operations of government quite effective and transparent. And in that sense, it can indelibly contribute in increasing public trust in its government. I argue, as I conclude, Honorable Chairperson, that when the executive fails to meet any of the standards that I've highlighted above, we can do so, especially when it comes to red tape. We can reduce it if our role as Parliament, through our oversight function, that we hold executive accountable, ensure that all of these standards are met. And this can be achieved by creating mechanisms to ensure that we realize these particular objectives. It is, as I conclude, Honorable Chair, it is critical to do all of these things to ensure that in honor of Colin, the animal Chabani, indeed our country moves forward and be transformed to an extent that service delivery value chain is optimized in order to achieve high levels of growth and development in our society. And this topic is extremely important as we advance our course to ensure that those particular objectives are realized. And in this, I hope that this will help us to understand and move processes forward and do whatever it takes and whatever within our means to ensure that we deal with red tape and achieve the developmental objectives of our society. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Totovu. The next speaker is Honorable Lond. You can put it down. You can put it down. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable.
Order. Honorable Matebula, order. Order, honorable members. Let's allow Honorable Lond to present his speech.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable Dodovu, I see we at least have one minister that feigned some interest further down the speakers list, which is an improvement on some of the previous debates. Members, and I also see we've got one of our former NCOP members, the MEC, coming up after me. Honorable Dodovu, you said about 4 or 5 times as you conclude, so I think next time we should give you a shorter time and you would make a little bit more sense, because you know what? The red tape is not the #1 hindrance of job creation in South Africa. The #1 hindrance to job creation in South Africa is your party. And you coming from the Northwest, that is actually the most clear-cut example of how failed democracies work when you elect incompetent cadres into position of power. But let me get back to some stats. About a fortnight ago, Stats SA's quarterly labor force survey gave a clear and unambiguous endorsement of DA policy toward job creation. Across the 8 other provinces in South Africa that's run by the bloated bureaucracies of the ANC, 1% of new jobs were created in the 4th quarter of 2022. Compare this to a single province where the DA governs. There is a clear understanding that elected public representatives should create an enabling environment for businesses to flourish and ensure that taxpayers' money are directed back towards the greater good of citizens. This is then reflected in the job numbers, where 167,000 new job opportunities were created in this province in the last 3 months of 2022. The Western Cape government established within the Department of Economic Development a red tape reduction unit. And I quote directly, the link to an enabling environment is the concept of ease of doing business. The World Bank defines ease of doing business as the extent to which the regulatory environment is conducive to the starting and operation of local firm. Entrepreneurs depend on a conducive environment that aid their success. But that's simply not the case in the broader context of South Africa, where we are ranked 40th out of 51 countries in the 2022 Global Entrepreneurship Monitor's National Entrepreneurship Context Index, which assesses entrepreneurship conditions. The success of the DA-led governments is in spite of the multitude of obstacles that is directly attributed to the national ANC-led governments, such as the ongoing high load shedding stages we are facing. It is the dysfunctional South African police service that allows criminality to flourish in this country, and is the inflexible labor legislation. In spite of all of that, directly linked to the national ANC government, we still achieve that success in the Western Cape. And this follows on directly from a pandemic that brought the entire world to halt, not just South Africa. So I wish this ANC-led government would stop blaming COVID for your inadequacies and your failure to get the economy going. The entire world faced the same obstacles. You know what's the difference? The rest of the world and in the Western Cape, we get competent people to lead the turnaround and the change that is needed to overcome the obstacles. In March 2021, the Premier of the Western Cape approved the Economic Recovery Plan, with a key component being what this debate is about today. That of creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, to operate, to retain revenue, and create jobs via this red tape reduction unit. The helpline that was also established to support businesses is a success because Instead of trying to work in isolation, there is a collaborative approach aimed towards removing the bottlenecks in the business environment. The task team working in this area are pulled from both the province and here the metro that helps to identify and address the problems that are faced. See, my time is quite short. I should have used a few of my time is almost up from the Honorable Dodovu. Since the inception of the helpline, over 9,000 cases received assistance with a positive resolution rate of well over 80%. You, the ANC, created this mess because you have put your self-interest ahead of the best interest of South Africa. Contrast that with the province and with municipalities where we work. It is assessed, apologies, Chair, where the Red Tape Reduction Unit has conducted impact assessments. The interventions has generated savings and benefits of amounting just over 1 billion between 2015 and 2019. Now imagine for one moment, we can get colleagues from across the floor to work together with competent people from the private sector, not to get a bribe or a tender, but to make this country work and realize that if we all work together, this country can reach its full potential. We are facing an uncertain future in this country, a situation that was entirely created by the governing party nationally over the last few terms. We do, however, have the potential to turn it around. I am, however, afraid that the cancer of corruption is unfortunately part of the ANC DNA, but also part of the DNA of your red offspring. So the only way to ensure that there is a sustainable future for this country is to get rid of the ANC nationally, make sure that your red offspring doesn't get near any of the coffers, and ensure that there is a competent, capable government in charge of running this country. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Motara, Gauteng MEC Economic Development on the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyambi, to the Chief Whip of Council, Honorable Mohai, the Minister of Small Business Development, the Minister of COCTA, MECs from the various provinces, permanent and special delegates to the NCOP, Salga representative, ladies and gentlemen. I greet you all from the province of Gauteng, the province where it all starts, the province which on its own contributes 34% to the national GDP, the province that hosts almost all head offices of corporate South Africa, most of the country's embassies, consulates, and foreign missions, the province which is the economic heartbeat of our country. Gauteng, the most populous province in the country, yet the smallest in land space, competes with some of the best and most developed cities and states across the world. We have placed South Africa on the map and continue to attract new investors daily. 3 out of every 5 new jobs created over the past year were created in Gauteng. This demonstrates that we still are a destination of choice for both businesses, entrepreneurs, and job seekers alike. Of course, all of these elements do not come without their own challenges and immense pressures. Pressure on government's ability to provide adequate, quality services to our citizens, pressure on our public and economic infrastructure, and pressure on the public purse to cushion the most vulnerable in our society. But we are resilient, we are determined, and we are committed to provide these services, regardless of the pressure we are under. We are committed to be responsive, forward-thinking, and futuristic in our approach. Using the skills and talent at our disposal, we are finding new and innovative ways of ensuring that we keep our #1 spot in the country and in the region of being the greatest contributor to the GDP amongst other top spots we enjoy. Without belaboring the point of the negative effects of red tape, let me highlight some of the responses we have received from both business and citizens alike. Some of the criticisms include, it takes too long for government to make a decision. No one responds to emails and phone calls. Government is indecisive. What have we done as a province? As an example, what used to take us as a province 2 years to conclude an EIA now takes 30 days. We do and continue to house some of the most innovative and effective methods and mechanisms to reduce red tape. One of those is the Invest SA, of course, which is an initiative of the Department of Trade, Industry and Cooperation, is housed in Gauteng, where we house all national departments, provincial departments, and some municipalities to be able to effectively respond to business regulations and applications. This serves as a one-stop shop and is a mechanism we use to be able to attract investors, attract businesses, and grow our business and investment span and footprint across the province. Of course, many of us do have some interaction with red tape, both as citizens as well as businesses. But red tape can also be defined as non-essential procedures. It's forms, licenses, and regulations that add to our cost of dealing with government, not only for businesses, but also for citizens. It takes away it takes away time from businesses, time from citizens, time that we could best use in other responsibilities. Anything that's obsolete, redundant, wasteful, or confusing that diminishes the competitiveness of the province, that stands in the way of economic growth and job creation, or wastes taxpayers' time and money. Honorable Lont, I'm happy to hear House Chair that Honorable Lont misses me, but he fails to explain what has happened in Tshwane, the city that has been governed by the DA and the failed DA coalition for more than a term. It has taken an exceptionally long period of time for the city of Tshwane to be able to approve anything. They are a partner in one of our special economic zones, the Tshwane Economic Zone, where they committed to play an equal role as an equal partner in that special economic zone. That special economic zone houses the Ford production plant for their baki, which they export to the European market. Ford on its own contributes 1% to the national GDP. But what did Tshwane do after being brought into the process of the special economic zone, both as an equal player, equal partner, and an equal beneficiary of the special economic zone? They reneged on their commitment to be able to provide us with bulk services. What did the province do? The province has had to step up and step in and provide much needed funding for the provision of the bulk service, a purpose and a process, as well as a mandate that is not necessarily the province's. But had we not responded in the way that we did, we would have lost the investment of Ford Motor Vehicle Company. We now have to seriously look at our relationship with the municipality of Tshwane, because the DA-led municipality and its coalition partners, and I guess the Green Party is an offspring of the Blue Party, Honorable Lont, has failed to provide even the most basic services, not because there has not been adequate funding, not because there has not been capable and qualified officials, but simply because an animal such as a metro municipality, the head of government in our country, was just too complex and too difficult for you to be able to lead and lead it correctly. There are many types of red tape which we are directly attempting to respond to. As a province, we are looking at inefficient procedures and systems that are related to administrative management, and I've demonstrated how we've been able to reduce what would have taken 2 years to approve to 30 days, and you can count the 30 days if you like. We are further looking at inefficiencies and ineffectiveness in both our entities and our provincial departments. Where there are legislated timeframes, we stick to those, but where timeframes are not legislated, we are looking at how we minimize those. And and an example of that is the payment of invoices within 30 days. We now have internal policies to pay invoices within 15 days. Many of the entities under my stewardship in the province, such as the Gambling Board and the Tourism Authority, now meet that requirement of 15 days payment of invoices. This not only supports businesses, especially small businesses and entrepreneurs, but it also ignites and has been a method of reigniting the economy post-COVID. So I'm not using COVID or even blaming anything on COVID, but even things that we were not able to do prior to COVID, we are now able to do post-COVID. We are looking at rules and regulations. We are looking at certain policies with unanticipated cost benefits. We are looking at overlap and duplication and reducing those. We are looking at insurmountable paperwork. We are looking at unnecessary and inflexible regulations, lengthy processes, and looking at streamlining our systems across departments and across agencies. I would be amiss if I didn't use this opportunity, Chairperson, to make a considerable plea to both Salga and the Minister of COGTA to really impress upon municipalities that processes, applications, approvals are taking an extremely unacceptably long period of time in our municipalities. They are not assisting us in attracting and keeping investors. We are doing all we can as a province, but municipalities need to come on board. Those municipalities where we have we lead as the African National Congress are able to assist us, but where everybody uses the political football as an excuse not to be able to do anything or to do everything, we are extremely frustrated. And I think that the Minister of COGTA will definitely be one to be able to assist us and use the legislative tools at her disposal to be able to bring municipality on board, whether it is the DA or their offspring, the Green Party. We're hoping that the municipalities will work in a more efficient and effective way, the way they have been working when the ANC was leading them, especially in the metros. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ms. Mutara. The next
Real
is,
debate round, not self-praise that we have become in the DA.
thank you, Honorable Chief Whip Mtate Mogai. The next speaker is Honorable Nkadimeng, Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Let me greet the honorable ministers, Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, the delegates here, MECs, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me take this opportunity first to thank the House for inviting me and the department to engage on such an important topic on interprovincial red tape reduction. In the past decade, Honorable House Chair, local government has experienced a mass of legislation regulating its functions. The question is whether the sheer volume, style, nature, and scope of this updated, reviewed legislative forum is facilitating or obstructing the achievement of local government mandate towards the development of the people, but ultimately creating local economical developmental spaces. Are the laws not impeding two key values of local government, namely that municipalities are best placed to gauge community needs, but also to become sites of innovation and creativity? Through all these regulatory reforms, the administrative burden facing municipalities therefore unintendedly became excessive and incremental. While there might have been cogent rationale for each individual administrative requirement, cumulatively, they have prohibited and have a prohibitive impact on municipalities, diversing the scarce resources from core service delivery mandates, but to compliance on issues of all the policies. Currently, local government is moving on this cogent rationale by National Treasury at about circular number 84. And one does not minus the other, it becomes an additional requirement to be met by a municipality. Whether it's from an OMSCOA level
or a capacity development level, or an employment level, or a local government development agency area, and also developmental areas of service delivery. That creates the core mandate of municipalities. Well-performing municipalities, particularly big, metros, level 8, level 7 and 6, do try to make an important contribution to the strong economy and job creation. Small and struggling municipalities remain at the level of even finding it difficult to attract the necessary skills and therefore divert all the funds that they need in closing that gaps. So this contribute one to poor business environment, but equally to job losses. And this flies at the face of our constitution, which emphasizes the responsibility of municipalities to be rather the ones which facilitate the growth and development of our local economies. So the National Department of COGTA has a responsibility, including provinces, to ensure that municipalities play a major role in active steps to ensure a conducive business environment in a local space, but also to expand the employment creation opportunities such as self-employment, entrepreneurship, trade and investment. Improving the performance therefore lies in the success factors where municipalities need to be able to see beyond the boundaries of the ward or beyond the boundaries of their own municipal walls. Creation of regional economies where matters of business could also be promoted. For example, a municipality in the Limpopo called Beggersford, those who know the small town, could also have a collaboration with Lydenburg, Tabachweu municipality. They come from different provinces according to boundaries, but the value chain of business that tourists have created in the mining belt goes beyond the boundary of municipal demarcation. So it needs them to be able to see. And with that, SALGA is assisting in creating an economic band on behalf of COGTA for the two municipalities. So leadership must be prepared to move beyond what the rule and the book says. They must be, as civil servant, be committed as well to serving the public. We are at the coal face, as you all know, but we also need to safeguard the favorable environment and create the service delivery that our people need. So our managers must understandably be focused on ensuring that municipalities abide by legislation, but they shouldn't lack innovation, contribution into ensuring that the rules, yes, are looked up, our financial audits at least, but also we need to measure that with the development and deliver. MEC spoke to about our approval processes, for example, of plans and business plans, which takes no less than 8 months to approve in some municipalities, a house plan and a business plan or a business complex plan to a period of about 24 to 36 months. This is outdated and inappropriate, and it hinders development, and the MEC have seen that. What are we doing as ourselves as COGTA, informed by the district development model, is to ensure that one, besides planning together, but we have also identified the key areas which are minimizing or which are rather aimed to minimize the impact of red tapes in regulations, administrative, management processes, and systems. One municipality had a challenge with the hawker system. Instead of ensuring that the permit system is improved, they remove hawkers, they take their food, they destroy it to ensure that there's cleanliness in town. Instead of innovatively employing people and also sweep the streets at night to ensure that there's cleanliness, but there's also economic development. So you can streamline your procedure and the core essence of the municipality by also ensuring that your service is orientated towards the administrative personnel and therefore reducing and key delivery issues. So red tape sometimes is created by our own rules and regulations, which are not necessarily designed towards development, but are rather more specific and policy related. Instead of innovatively solving a problem, we administratively create a rule of law, which is, I will no longer then talk to the 30-day payment service, which the MEC has elaborated into, and it ensures that municipalities also deals with that. The guidelines which COCTA had done with regard to reducing the municipal red tape, also in ensuring that we improve service delivery and support small businesses. I'm sure Minister Ndabeni will also talk to that. But time taken to identify official and communication channel by our businesses. We currently are on the table with SASSA and SARS to improve on registration of our indigent and reduce the registration process. The same old woman goes to register at SASSA for her own. At the municipality where she or she resides, she also registers for an indigent when we could be able to share such and then roll out free basic services faster to the very same one old person who qualifies into all of this government system. This will reduce billing, this will reduce queuing, electricity and water, provision to our free basic services as guaranteed to our old generation, but also then the indigence of municipalities will improve. So the impact is also not only frustrating a customer or a business person or a resident, it needs to be able to ensure that it creates the numerous, relatively ultimately excessive costs that are then reduced. The approval process and systems economically to ensure that we deal with the adoption of the regional strengths in terms of planning, but also culminating into all what we would want our business locally to do. For example, our municipal infrastructure support agency, call it MISA, in short, has developed infrastructure cost guidelines to streamline and speed up all the procurement processes with regard to water, housing and roads, particularly in the labor-intensive sphere for our municipalities to be able to speed it up. We also have a program now currently dealing with the support of our vendor system and a link of our vendor system to our CWP program to ensure that there are issues which could identify priority reforms for the year ahead. They include mechanisms to ensure that government departments also participate and streamline all their delivery towards all these programs. Informal business support to ensure that the regulations in this country are also comply costly and made less difficult to comply with, to ensure that they don't prevent business companies into growing and creating jobs, but rather assist them into accelerating and doing the same. Honorable Chair, as I conclude, I won't conclude many times, echoing a theme of most of the presidential addresses and budget speeches under administration. President Ramaphosa committed to cutting red tape and business and established a team where MISA sits into it and again acknowledged at local government sphere that there are too many costly and complicated regulations that impact on the creation of businesses and jobs. So this team has identified in examples too that I have made on what makes the specific obstacles to investment and business growth. It will also ensure that the current initiatives or business processes are simplified, supported by property registration at municipal level, cross-border trades, and also construction permits, which needs to be reviewed and released faster. The detrimental goal of the dynamic private sector, employing the skills and the acumen of all South Africans and business activities which contribute significantly to investment into our business. So it is therefore recommended that if we are to initiate the reduction initiative in our area and in our participation with local business structures, we need to make sure that we are process aware and begin the journey of becoming more process mature organization by adopting business process management approach, which ensures that municipalities move up the ladder of service delivery excellence and they become more sophisticated at managing service delivery processes, and also ensuring that the national and provincial government guide capacity support to municipalities. It includes training, business process management, and review all the national and provincial legislation which negatively impact on small businesses and business environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Hopefully the chairperson of the committee and your other colleagues will learn from you that when NCOP is in session, it's always a good thing to have those that are participating in the house. Thank you for that. The next speaker is Honorable Mvogo, Eastern Cape MEC Finance, Economic Development, Environmental Affairs and Tourism. It's on the virtual platform.
It's about 30 seconds just giving that title.
Honorable MEC Mvogo.
Papa, I wish.
That's the challenge. That is why you are commending the minister by leading.
Thank you
from
very
the
much, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to you. I hope I'm audible now.
You are.
Greetings to the honorable ministers present in the House, and greetings to all members of this august House, MECs from other provinces present. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Chairperson, let me take this opportunity to appreciate the time we've been given as the Eastern Cape to take part in today's debate. It is a necessary debate and a debate that is needed to increase acceleration and impact of our service delivery programs to our people. The sequence of forms and procedures can really be time consuming. They can be costly and complicated for our customers. And this sometimes leads to our services to benefiting the people they are not intended for. I must emphasize, though, that not all regulation is red tape. Regulation is necessary and useful when it enables enterprise formation, when it enables growth and job creation. The red tape reduction is one of the strategic interventions that strives to realize administrative efficiencies. Bylaws are essential in providing a regulatory environment that is attractive and boosts the confidence of business or investors in a special area of municipal jurisdiction. The second intervention relates to a twofold regulatory review. One aspect of this is to promote the adoption of a regulatory framework that provides for the mutual coexistence of corporate, formal and informal enterprise in the market. Packaging of information on processes to follow, available demarcated or secured business zones for business location, special conditions and incentives attached to this is essential to guiding investors to aspects befitting their areas of interest. We should be aware that President Cyril Ramaphosa has established a red tape reduction team that will work in reducing excessively complex rules, regulations, procedures, and processes that inhibited economic growth and job creation in key areas of the economy, and work with relevant role players across government, the private sector, and community-based organizations. The two departments, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competitions and the Department of Small Business Development, are critical in the process, as well as the participation of other key stakeholders. Role players across government, the private sector and community-based organizations are critical in addressing the red tape issues. To align with that, the Department of Economic Development, Environmental Affairs and Tourism in the Eastern Cape, working with municipalities, will play a critical role in the realization of the work of this team at a provincial level. Now, the red tape reduction team has identified a list of almost 100 potential red tape issues, which were reduced to 3 areas of high importance. And those areas, prioritized areas, were tourism travel permits, the mining and prospecting rights licensing system, and work permits and visa administration. Now, other red tape issues impacting negatively to economic development, financial inclusion, job creation, to mention only a few, include informal trading permits and licenses. And I think during the time of COVID, we saw the impact of the informal trading permits and licenses, the impact it had to the informal businesses. Secondly, the cumbersome administrative requirements that create a perception of low confidence and sometimes frustration in accessing finance. And lastly, access to services in remote locations and locations of government service institutions. In our engagement as the Eastern Cape with business chambers and associations, they would raise to us challenges that constrain their members, which they say are unnecessary. These include no proper database for SMEs and informal businesses within respective municipal jurisdiction, resulting in minimal to zero interaction between business and local government. Medium of communication for informal traders, rural-based or township-based enterprises is a challenge. Poor stakeholder engagement on bylaws that impact businesses resulting in lack of awareness and sometimes non-compliance with municipal bylaws. Language and culture barriers, long and unacceptable turnaround time, especially if in situations like the zonal applications, approval of plans, etc. The process of issuing licenses is lengthy. Now, as a province, there are changes and areas for improvement that we're proposing whilst awaiting for formalization of the red tape reduction guidelines and power to the red tape reduction task team. These include that town planning must be responsive to community and business needs. Private sector should be central in informing economic spatial transformation. Secondly, broadband connectivity is key in the provision of systems and initiatives that seek to address red tape issues. Connectivity can also play an important role in addressing the issue of accessibility to service information. Thirdly, awareness campaigns and public participation are very important. Customer care should be embedded in the efforts of addressing red tape issues. Poor customer care can hinder efforts to minimize the impact of red tape. Clear and documented processes, which include checklists, timeframes in enabling business-related requirements. Understand and improve interdepartmental coordination to minimize and resolve interdepartmental or institutional blockages. It is our belief that red tape has negative impact on investment attraction. Eastern Cape government, in partnership with DIC, established a provincial investor or South Africa one-stop shop. The one-stop shop is critical in investment facilitation provision of investment information, fast-tracking processes and resolving bottlenecks and challenges faced by business in the province. This facility is an attempt to reduce red tape for potential investors as well as supporting an existing investor, which is post-investment support. And key services at the one-stop shop include serving as an accessible entry point for investors in need of regulatory compliance within laws and or regulations across all spheres of government, fast-tracking regulator decision processes by increasing transparency, clarifying regulations, and improving the quality and time frame of services. Advice on various incentives, which is tax, land, training, special economic zones, etc., etc. Participate in the regulatory reform or roadmap process of South Africa. Advise on pre-approval services, the market data, costs, incentives, project approval. So these are all services that are key at the one-stop shop that we have established in the province. The medium term is to have satellite one-stop shop services at other regions beyond the two metros, because currently we have them in the metros, and we're looking to a situation where we're going to have this one-stop shop across all the district or regions that we have in our province. And if we could do that, it would assist a lot in terms of minimizing the time that will be taken by those who want to do investment traveling into the two metros. Honorable Chairperson, let me conclude by committing that we still strive to come up with practical, innovative tools and resources to reduce red tape issues and challenges encountered by businesses. Effective and efficient business environment is a key enabler for accelerated economic growth, job creation, and poverty reduction. This has become more necessary than ever before, as these businesses are struggling with energy crisis, impact of climate change, with severe drought, floods, limited roadwork and or transport logistics. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, MEC Mvogo. The next speaker is Honorable Dlamini.
Chairperson, the state has a responsibility at both provincial and municipal level in particular of creating a conducive environment for small businesses to operate in. The state also carries the responsibility of creating and enabling an environment for businesses to grow, and this can only be achieved through deliberate interventions made by the state to build capacity and remove unnecessary red tape. As a state ought to be developmental in its outlook with anti-corruption measures firmly in place, so as to ensure economic growth and development. On state capacity, I'd like to refer the House to the Economic Freedom Fighters' clear and decisive non-negotiable cardinal pillar number 3, which outlines the importance of building a state and government capacity, which will lead to the abolishment of tenders. As currently, the ruling party has weakened the state's capacity to provide basic services, to drive economic growth and development, so much so that all functions that a state should be performing are currently being performed by private sector and other corporations that often collude to suck from the state the little resources which it does not have. As a result, there currently exists a failure of municipalities to deliver even the most basic of services, which not only causes immense hardship for the residents of municipalities, but also detrimental impacts on social and economic development. Municipalities are the face of service delivery, the place where our people most often come into contact with government. Therefore, the quality of municipal service delivery has a great impact on most people's quality of life. It also has a big impact on businesses across South Africa, especially small businesses that are the most vulnerable to poor municipal service delivery and the load shedding crisis that we are currently facing. Yet the quality of services provided to our people leaves little to be desired, owing to the contract and tender system adopted by the government, which leaves private individuals empowered and communities disempowered. Red tape surrounding businesses also makes it difficult for small businesses to succeed and grow, as it is characterized by the range of factors such as outdated or inappropriate policies, rules and regulations, insufficient processes and systems, poor management, and staff skill shortages. The Department of Small Businesses also has failed at playing any meaningful role for small businesses, as small businesses have been left stranded without any governmental intervention as governmental money continues to be given to white-owned companies. Such failures can be attributed to the reliance on tenders, which limits the capacity of the state to directly industrialize the country. In municipalities, service delivery provision has only been through competitive bidding, a procurement method within government born out of the idea that behind competitive tendering, suppliers are forced to give the taxpayers better value for their money. Chairperson, this process has been the biggest reasons why municipalities underperform and has turned out to be the biggest scam created. So others can get rich by manipulating procurement processes. It has been a scam which has enriched only few government officials, politicians, and tenderpreneurs, and it has generally stunned the creation of wealth and severely limited government's ability to deal effectively with poverty and deprivation. It has had the biggest impact on infrastructure projects, and there currently exists no substantial evidence to suggest that companies given responsibility to foster change through service delivery on behalf of municipalities has worked. Not anywhere in the country, including the Eastern Cape. You might have great speeches, but your track record speaks less to be desired of. There also exist no meaningful monitoring or investigative systems to ensure that supplier is credible and without ties to politicians and officials. And this has negative impact and unnecessarily delays service delivery to the people. The EFF therefore rejects any notion that even in the slightest suggests that there's a need to expand how the current value chain system for service delivery works should be given room for corruption and maladministration. And although reducing unnecessary constraints on small businesses should be a key focus area for government, it is corruption which remains a key obstacle to political and economic development. Municipalities must have the capacity to perform the most basic functions internally. They must be equipped with the right human capital with the necessary skills to handle the needs of the community. Municipalities must be capacitated with the correct technologies to keep up with the pace of the community and must do this with proper public consultation so that community members know where to go when accountability needs to be reported on. An enabling environment for businesses can only be achieved through the development and implementation of policy regulations by municipalities. An enabling environment for businesses can only be achieved through ushering in of new leadership that is committed to growing the economy and improving service delivery and rooting out corruption. We therefore call on all South Africans to meet us on the picket lines on the 20th of March to demand economic and the resignation of Mr. Ramaphosa. Thank you.
The next speaker is Honorable Nkosi.
Malibongwe.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The South African government has developed policies, laws, and regulations that encourage open markets, innovation, and a more competitive economy. However, some of the local business environments can discourage investors, both domestic and foreign, and stands in the way of innovation, growth, and the potential creation of jobs. This is exacerbated by the unfavorable regulatory environment, high cost and risk of doing business in the localities. While each other of these spheres of government have an overall responsibility to improve the regulatory environmental for small enterprises, municipalities in particular have a leading role to play in ensuring that the specific local business environments in their jurisdictions maximize on opportunities for shared economic growth and development. In the State of the Nation address of last year, 2022, His Excellency President Ramaphosa remarked, "These are too many regulations in this country that are unduly complicated, costly, and difficult to comply with. This prevents companies from growing and creating jobs. We are therefore working to improve the business environment for companies of all sizes through a dedicated capacity in the presidency to reduce red tape. If we are to make progress in cutting unnecessary bureaucratic delays for businesses, we need dedicated capacity with the means to make changes." In the same address, he announced the appointment of a red tape team that will identify priority reforms for the year ahead, including mechanisms to ensure government departments pay suppliers with the required 30 days. The team will also work with other departments and agencies to unblock specific investment and business growth obstacles. It will support current initiatives to simplify processes relating to proper registration, cross-border trade, and construction permits. Honorable Chair, municipalities are at the coal face of service delivery, where citizens often come into
contact with government. The quality of municipal service delivery greatly impacts most people's quality of life. It also has a big impact on businesses across South Africa, but it is small business that is most vulnerable to poor municipal service delivery and red tape because small businesses have less staff, administrative and financial resources to spend on dealing with red tape. Municipal managers are understandably forced on ensuring their municipalities abide by all relevant legislations. Much of their attention and energy is focused on improving municipal financial audit results, not reducing red tape. But municipal managers need to realize it. It is possible to improve both audit and reduce red tapes by focusing on business processes. By focusing on business process management and using supportive software tools, which reduce the burden of compliance and improve customer service using existing staff resources. Municipal managers need to provide the leadership commitment to reduce red tapes. Honorable Chair, lengthy time frames for decisions service impact the economy because they determine the period in which expenditure can be incurred, thus resulting in less productivity in the economy. It will be critical that government responds to this problem through developing various automation process in areas of less risk. This will increase the economic activity. Loss of trust in municipalities, lost business investment, reduced municipal revenue and rates base. Basic services are fundamental in creating an enhanced environment for economic development. The problem of the provision of basic services such as electricity, water and sanitation and lack of inclusive spatial planning impact the mobility of the poor from conditions of poverty. Poor economic growth, job creation, limited poverty reduction, lower municipal revenue, and poor services impact the sustainability of local economic development. Unnecessary and high cost cash flow impacts, job losses, business closures impact the cost of living because high cost due to processes untimely increase the cost of goods and services, thus impacting the local economy. Develop a resident care policy and set of administrative procedures, system and responsibilities that identifies all procedures to be followed when submitting and responding to service delivery complaints for all departments, including steps for escalating complaints if they are dealt with to the satisfaction of residents or businesses. A government of people enables the people to govern through public participatory processes. These processes are critical to enable the people who experience the reality of economy and administrative process get the opportunity to suggest ways to improve processes. The people's involvement in government affairs should characterize a developmental local government. Our democratic government is embedded in constitutional principles, equity, and justice. The ability of the state to continuously learn and adapt is a key component of continuous improvement, and the review cycles of policy should enable such interventions. Establish resident care centers in locations that are visible and accessible to residents and businesses through the municipal area and staffed by well-trained personnel. Monitor resident service and complaints resolution performance daily through putting in place a continuous monitoring system and being subject to regular performance audits. And e-government is a key priority of the ANC-led government to build the technology capacity, to leverage technology, to improve the capability of technology to reduce various red tape, which impacts the states and the citizens and broader political economy. Put in place mechanisms for residents and businesses to provide customer feedback. Create and fill a senior management post responsible for service improvement within the strategic or corporate services department of municipal manager's office, or ideally create a chief business process officer post. Having the right person with the necessary technical expertise, knowledge, and skills is important to transform the service delivery value chain. The ANC has developed various policy reforms and is currently undertaking a macro configuration of the state to ensure the state is fit for purpose in responding to the challenges which confront our society. Honorable Chair, the district developmental models is an intergovernmental model will enhance the ability of government to impact skills and develop skills in the three spheres of government. It will also contribute to sharing best practices, which can improve regulation and address various tape in the system. Lastly, Chair, the ANC will continue to respond to the challenges experiencing our people, working with them in advancing their interest. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nkosi. The next speaker is Honorable Sithole Moloi, KwaZulu-Natal MEC Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs on the virtual platform. Honorable MEC.
Thank you, House Chair. Greetings to honorable members, honorable Chair, ministers present, MECs, permanent and also special guests of the NCOP, all guests present, ladies and gentlemen. I think one should appreciate the time given to her to be able to present herself before the NCOP. I humble myself and I'm appreciative of the time that have been given to me. I wish to also to appreciate the fact that the chair says we must come physically. We'll try by all means to come physically. I pledge that. We want to commend the NCOP for facilitating the crucial debate on red tape reduction and the role of local government in economic growth and development. This debate compels us to pay attention to how, through the effective implementation of the district development model, we can advance policies that support local economic development and reduce the impediments to investment, attraction, and growth, which often emanates from challenges presented by regulatory and burden on SMMEs. This debate acknowledges the SMMEs are the backbone of accelerated inclusive economic growth and job creation. The centrality of SMMEs in South African economy is underlined by the National Development Plan, which envisage the SMEs to generate more than 90% of new jobs by 2030. There is no doubt that the prevailing economic situation in South Africa is far from reaching that target. It is thus important that municipalities themselves, which are the cold face of service delivery, are recalibrated to eliminate red tapes and to become engines of economic growth. Addressing the SALGA Council of Mayors in September 2022, His Excellency, the President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, correctly asserted that, I open quote, the failure of local government has a direct and material impact on economic growth and jobs, close quote. The President considered that challenges at local government level undermine the country's social and economic development agenda. In this regard, the National Department of COGTA has also singled out a vibrant local economy where money circulates in the local economy as a central pillar of what we can call and identify ideal municipalities. History and experience has shown that all spheres of government need to work in cooperation and coherent manner through the new approach of DDM, with a singular focus to support business and SMEs development in municipalities. This also calls for social compact with business and civil society to achieve sustainable economic development. In 2021, research indicates that Gauteng province constitutes of 31% of SMEs in the country and is followed by KwaZulu-Natal with 16.3%. The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor shows that South Africa's overall average score of entrepreneurship condition improved from 3.63 in 2019 to 4.1 in 2022. That has moved the country from bottom 5 to in 2019, and in 2021 we ranked the 40th out of the 51 countries in 2022. Regulatory burdens for SMEs development in our country includes the cost of tax compliance, which is said to increase in the cost of doing business. We are also aware that the delays in rezoning processes often forces business to operate irregular and also out of business. We have also seen how lengthy delays increase the cost of development, sometimes resulting in planned investment or development being cancelled. All spheres of government need to enforce the 30-day payment policy for suppliers to prevent a number of SMEs from closing down. We welcome all efforts since the dawn of democracy by government aimed at reducing red tape. The 6th administration established the Office of the Red Tape Reduction program in the presidency. Another key development has been the publication of the National Integrated Small Enterprise Development Master Plan by the Department of Small Development, Business Development. One of the pillars of the NISED master plan is red tape reduction, which can be achieved through policy and regulatory reform. Amongst the many well-known red tape issues affecting small business development in South Africa has prioritized tourism travel permit. This is particularly significant for a tourist destination like KZN. Mining and prospecting rights license system, work permit and visa administration. There is no doubt that we need improved coordination and coherence between the Department of Small Business Development, the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, and the Office of the Red Tape Reduction Program. As COCTA, we carry the responsibility to provide leadership in enforcing DDMs and bringing all government departments and the agencies to eliminate the red tape to support local economic development. We commend work previously done by the DSBD through the Red Tape Reduction Program, where it works with a number of municipalities to roll out measures to reduce regulatory burdens for small businesses. The province of KwaZulu-Natal, through the Department of Economic Development and Environmental Affairs, has also adopted one-stop shop to improve the ease of doing business, support business development, and attract investment. There is no doubt that small enterprises are particularly vulnerable to poor service delivery and complex regulatory compliance. Lengthy period involved in addressing infrastructure, maintenance, or service delivery disruption contributes to the business closure. As COCTA, we will continue to support municipalities to review their policies, bylaws, regulations to support SMEs development. We are working closely with the municipality to ensure that they spend on the MIG grant, because delays in infrastructure delivery negatively affect business development. Honorable Chair, in the aftermath of the global financial crisis of 2007 to 2009, the KZN Cabinet Lekgotla held in September 2012 resolved to establish district development agencies to provide effective business facilitation and to ensure and to reduce regulatory burden. In South Africa, development agencies bring the gap between the public and the private sector in terms of industrial and economic development. In KwaZulu-Natal, we saw these agencies playing a role as a competitive municipal entities that stimulate local economies and increase regional economic growth. In 2022, the Cabinet Lekgotla tasked our department to review the district development agencies as a mechanism to support local economic development and growth in the SMMEs. The review has proposed the amalgamation of the district LEDs unit within the DDAs and expanding the mandate of the DDAs. There are concrete proposals on institutional arrangement, including the appointment of the board of the DDAs. Honorable Chair, we also wish to report that the CEOs Forum, which sat on the 7th of November 2022, agree that KwaZulu-Natal COGTA should support the DDAs to play a stronger role in the DDM by coordination of the economic sector, employment, infrastructure development, which is asset cluster, and strengthen their role in the one plan. Standardizing financial model of the DDAs by municipalities and provincial government should be adopted. We must also forge strong partnership and social compact with the business sector to drive the growth.
As you conclude, Honorable MEC.
As I conclude, Honorable Chair, I wish to say that as KwaZulu-Natal, we are in support of the ensuring that there is a clear regulation that are transformed to take out the red tape for the betterment and also for the growth of the local economic development in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MEC Sithole Moloi. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Dutoy on the virtual platform. Honorable Dutoy.
Agbare voorsitter, wat is nodig om die ekonomie te laat groei, werkskeping te stimuleer en te verseker dat klein en medium grootte besighede nie net op die been kom en oorleef nie, maar floreer? Hierdie is vrae wat eintlik heel eenvoudig beantwoord behoort te word as die regering sy bril van onderdrukking en selektiewe hulpverlening en die verknogtheid aan onbillike en onregverdige wetgewing en regulasie en hulpverlening wil stikkend trap. The Freedom Front Plus welcome the fact that the progress is being made in reducing so-called red tape that hinders SMMEs from entering the economy with ease. One very important issue, however, is that the fact that Black economic empowerment hasn't been addressed, Chair. Even National Treasury noted that the cost of compliance with red tape, like obtaining Black economic empowerment certification, is a great hindrance for small companies, and they are being discriminated against people that are not of color. How ironic that after 29 years, government called a debate on the topic red tape reduction. Hierdie huidige regulerende beperkende wetgewing en regulasies kniehalter entrepreneurs in Suid-Afrika, voorsitter. Entrepreneurskap het die afgelope paar jaar wipland gery en het intendeel afgeneem ten spyte daarvan dat dit die kern van die ekonomie behoort te wees. Entrepreneurs en klein sake besighede is verantwoordelik om met innoverende idees en nuutskepping en met produktiwiteit aan die mikro-ekonomie en provinsies deel te neem op 'n gelyke basis. Die regering bied egter nie dieselfde ondersteuning aan alle Suid-Afrikaners nie. Kleur speel steeds 'n rol. Kleur bepaal ongelukkig of jy mag tender of nie, of jy mag koop of verkoop of nie, of jy mag werk of nie. Support given to small and medium enterprises during the COVID period is a clear example of government's one-sided approach and discriminative attitude. Unrealistic and restrictive labor laws in South Africa has a suffocating effect on job creation, especially when it comes to employing young people and are extremely burdensome to small businesses. Even the Honorable Dodovu alluded to the fact earlier, and he's from the governing party. How many small businesses were destroyed by government-imposed COVID restrictions? How many lives and livelihoods were as a result of unrealistic? How many dreams and futures were shattered, Chair? Focusing on red tape reduction as a topic of debate is opportunistic and misleading in a pre-election year. Hierdie ekonomie die afgelope 29 jaar onderdruk, ingeperk en geplunder, Om nou wit voetjies te soek by die kiesers is te min te laat, voorsitter. Pogings om regulasies te verslap dat besighede die sektor makliker kan betree is goed. Die vraag is wat gedoen word aan amptenare wat nie die nodige trots, werketiek in die dak lê om kliënte en besighede met die nodige kundigheid te diens wat hulle veronderstel is om te doen nie. Hulle is nie in staat nie, voorsitter, 'n groot hoeveelheid. Die staatsdiens staan ongelukkig daarvoor bekend dat die oorgrote meerderheid nie noodwendig meer bekwame en die flikste persone is nie en takt ontbreek in die meeste van die gevalle. The sense of entitlement is unfortunately a reality that the general public needs to face when engaging with most of government structures. In short, Chair, even if red tape is reduced to the bare minimum, cadre deployment and quotas will keep on hindering service delivery for years to come. Focusing on skills development and qualifying individuals while they are in their positions illustrate that government's failure to do appointments on the basis of qualification and skill. It's time to realize that South Africa must be put first, not political ideology. In closing, Chair, through you, the Honourable Mutara might not be informed or might be a stranger to the truth. I wish to educate her. The Green Party, as you call it, is no one's offspring. We're a party with our own identity, and unlike the party you belong to, the ANC, we have values and serve the constituents with pride and honesty. Laat Suid-Afrika toe om die ekonomie sonder politieke inmenging te groei, voorsitter. Suid-Afrika verdien beter. Dankie.
Thank you, Honourable.
Chair, I think it's not the Green Party, they're the White Party.
The next speaker is Honourable Poshoff. Honourable Poshoff.
The one-eyed Caribbean pirate. Honourable House Chair and all other protocol observed. In South African context, the words red tape is as dreaded as the words corruption. And why is this? Red tape is and has been the downfall of many an aspirant entrepreneur, as they cannot on their small budget contend with the tiresome regulations. It is more of a disincentive than an incentive, particularly when employing fewer than 21 people. 1 rand in every 20 rand goes to red tape. Unfortunately, in this beautiful country of ours, we hear of the various commitments being made by ministers and even our president on cutting red tape, but the implementation is lacking. It is lip service year after year. Honourable Chair, if you have been wondering what Cyril Ramaphosa's red tape reduction task team has been doing since his announcement of this team during the 2022 SONA, don't wonder too much, as not much has transpired. On 16 November 2022, the Red Tape Reduction Task Team met with the Small Business Development for a brief on its progress. Sipho Nkosi, head of this task team, in no uncertain terms stated that the team has no permanent structure and needs administrative capacity. He furthermore stated that his team currently did not have any powers and would see what could be done with these limited powers. So again, we see a team that is charring away taxpayers' hard-earned money and nothing to show for it. At last year's investing in African mining in Durban, the president again committed to cut the dreaded red tape. Honourable Chair, has this happened? Most definitely not, as the mining sector is still faced with lengths of tape, and the only reference to red is the red that they are seeing when applying for operating licenses. On 16 June 2022, the president at his Youth Day address in Mthatha again said, and I quote, "The government is intensifying its investment drive and removing the red tape that holds back business growth and greater employment creation." Where are these business growths taking place, Honourable House Chair, that create these greater employments. As stated earlier by my colleague, Honourable Lund, the only province that has seen a remarkable upward trend in growth is the Western Cape, who created 167,000 jobs out of the 169,000 as contained in the stats of the fourth quarter 2022. The question that begs to be answered, honourable members, is how is it possible for the Western Cape to create so many jobs? I'll enlighten you. Red tape reduction and a conducive market for job creation. It is a fact that the President and his government clearly need to fix the regulatory and administrative problems facing entrepreneurs, businesses, etc. as a matter of urgency. This government must stop appeasing its citizens through lip service and rather show them the results. We see investors flooding out of South Africa as they have had enough of the draconian rules and regulations. Honourable members and the broader public, over 100 billion in South African shares and bonds have been sold by international investors since the start of 2023. And industries that are struggling with red tape are inter alia tourism, with the issuing of travel permits, which to say the least are cumbersome. The mining and prospecting rights are hindered by a lack of modern systems to administer the licenses. Work permits and visa administration are a nightmare due to the inability of Home Affairs to process work permits quickly. This negatively impacts international firms' ability to operate in South Africa and attract critical skills this country so desperately needs. SMMEs and the informal traders are the backbone of job creation, but alas, they also struggle with trading permits and licenses. We are furthermore aware that Mr. Nkosi also indicated that letters were sent to the premiers of each province to establish red tape reduction units to form part of the overall architecture to tackle red tape reduction more systemically. Unfortunately, we have not seen a report on how the provinces have addressed this or whether the provinces have set up these units. Once again, the only province with these units that I'm aware of is the Western Cape. In conclusion, Honourable House Chair, the President also said that if we are to make progress in cutting unnecessary bureaucratic delays for businesses, we need dedicated capacity with means to make changes. Unfortunately, it would appear as if performance does not count much for the ANC in ANC circles, as the public servants continue to enjoy the party's patronage. So please, Mr. President, and all involved, for the sake of this country and for the sake of economic growth, would you ensure that the red tape reduction team is entrusted with the necessary tools and resources to bring about the necessary reduction with these bureaucratic regulations? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Boshoff. Get well very soon. Thank you. Honorable Khatebe, who's on the virtual platform.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable members, last year the President announced that the government would be seeking to reduce red tape so that our country can be rid of unnecessary bureaucracy that holds us back. One of the greatest threats stopping our country from attaining its priorities is the lack of coordination in government. With better coordination comes clarity and improved operational performance. Bureaucratic red tape stands in the way of this coordination. This affects not only different spheres of government, but also the private sector, the informal sector, and citizens. The service delivery value chain, in particularly vulnerable to the impacts of poor coordination. Red tape results in ineffective and inefficient supply chain management processes and controls. This results in under expenditure, which undermines service delivery and leads to irregular and wasteful expenditure and corruption. The issue of government departments failing to pay suppliers within 30 days must be addressed. Failure to do this, sorry, Honorable Chair, this issue of government departments failing to pay suppliers within 30 days must be addressed. Failure to do this has an extreme effect on small businesses as it impacts business cash flow and sustainability and results in unnecessary job losses and even liquidation and business closures. The red tape problem is posed by having multiple supply databases across government departments, by having insufficient staff capacity with employees who do not have the appropriate skills and experience in supply chain management or knowledge of the tender process. This in turn leads to poorly designed tenders with inadequate specifications. The problem is deepened by political interference, a lack of departmental delivery plans, and an excessive reliance on physical paperwork. All of this results in poor quality service delivery. Services then have to be re-provided at extra cost. To begin to reduce the impact of red tape, staff with sufficient capacity must be put in place. Government must work with local universities and FET colleges to form partnerships to provide external assistance to refine and improve tender specifications. It is also imperative that a unified supplier database is developed, audited, and kept updated. One of the greatest challenges South Africa is currently tasked with is effective and reliable basic service delivery to all citizens. Red tape is an enormous barrier to this, and all efforts for its reduction must be made. Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Hatebe. The next speaker is Honorable Ndabeni Abrahams, Minister Small Business Development, on the virtual platform.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Minister Nkandile, Deputy Minister Dibowo Peters, MCs, chairpersons, and members of various select committees of the National Council of Provinces, DGs present, ladies and gentlemen, Molweni. The first task of a revolutionary is to create or build before destroying. Anyone that focuses on destroying, and not building is not a revolutionary. Our portfolio deals with development and financing of small, medium, and micro enterprises, as well as cooperatives. International experience shows that growth and job is most likely to come from SMMEs. This is consistent with thinking in the National Development Plan, which suggests that some 85% of new jobs and between 60% and 80% of new economic value as we move towards 2030 will come from small businesses. Honorable members, to achieve this, we need a paradigm shift in our approach to SMMEs and cooperatives, and a massive step change in the scale of support we provide to the sector. This is not just for government alone, but needs to activate the entire SMME support ecosystem. This is the focus of the National Integrated Small Enterprise Development Strategic Framework that we have developed. The NISAD plan calls for better coordination of financial and non-financial support for SMMEs and cooperatives, and we are gearing up to play this role and forging partnerships with critical ecosystem players. Our focus is on reducing barriers to entry, addressing market concentration, and co-creating markets for SMMEs and cooperatives in partnership with the private and higher education sector. And here, we have entered into partnerships with a number of departments, large corporations, some organized bodies in our ecosystem. We are scaling up business development support to small businesses through entrepreneurship training and mentoring, and through expanding our incubation programs at CETA. We're also working hard to increase financial support to small businesses and cooperatives through CIFA and partnerships with banks, including non-bank financial intermediaries. Both our microfinance and our credit guarantee products especially are starting to show results. We could do more with increase in budget. In all our work, we're especially focused on underserved SMMEs and co-ops in township and rural areas, but also prioritize our growth startups and scale-ups that have the most potential to create jobs, the jobs that we must all support. All these support interventions we are putting in place will be undermined unless we have a more urgent and targeted strategy of red tape reduction. Honorable members, red tape cuts across the whole of government and affects all enterprises regardless of size. The compliance and administrative costs associated with certain regulations are growth constraining and create barriers to trade and investment. My colleagues from the provinces have clearly articulated this. All of this work needs to be coordinated and then needs to be a point of escalation to the highest office in the land, where we as a line department cannot resolve this issue. Therefore, the president appointed Mr. Ngosi to lead the red tape reduction, to lead. This includes initiatives like the National Doing Business Program, driven in the presidency and by the GTIC. It focuses on improving the investment climate within our country. And here the focus is on starting a business, paying taxes, registering property, construction permits, and trading across borders. This is critical if we are to take advantage of the opportunities of the African Continental Free Trade Area, one of the flagship programs of Agenda 2063. Government is also implementing the Subnational Doing Business Program through the National Treasury City Support Program targeting metros and focusing on construction permits, registering property, enforcing contracts, and getting electricity. Our cities, honorable members, are engines of growth and need to fire on all cylinders. Our own work as the department focuses on red tape for small, medium, and micro enterprises, including cooperatives. And in regard to this, I will focus on the 5 areas. The first, we need to better understand the universe of regulations impacting negatively on SMMEs. This includes the Small Business Act, the Businesses Act, the Companies Act, labor registration, including the UIF, the Compensation Fund, Skills Levy, the BBBE Act, the Public Procurement Act, and Preferential Procurement Framework, amongst others. There are also provincial regulations around gambling, liquor, special planning, and municipal ordinances, as well as numerous regulations at local government. And my colleagues have spoken to this. These include the zoning, building regulations, informal trading bylaws, business licensing, and many others. In this regard, we are undertaking a comprehensive study on regulatory impediments for SMMEs, of which I have been advised that it will be completed in the coming 2 weeks. This will give us the evidence base to prioritize and develop an effective SMME red tape action plan, which will drive by the department. We realize we cannot be everywhere, so we'll focus on a few regulatory reforms which have the quickest and deepest impact. One such priority we have already started working on is to integrate the registration and reporting requirements for SMMEs as part of a single point of access for SARS, the CIPC, and the Department of Employment and Labor. The second one, working with Mr. Ngosi, we are working on establishing the red tape reduction capacity in all provinces. And here we build on the excellent work being done in KwaZulu-Natal and the Western Cape, where there are clear processes and mechanisms for tracking complaints and resolutions. Gauteng has made great progress in accelerating approval processes for SMMEs, especially those in township economies, which have been historically underserved. Last year, we undertook provincial roadshows, and we have recently met with all provincial MSs responsible for economic development. We are now finalizing MOUs to look at how we can better collaborate to reduce the red tape and ensure the best practice from lead provinces can be shared across the country. Honorable Chair, the third area is to focus on local government. This is the most difficult area of work, given some of the challenges we experience in many of our municipalities. Tshwane, a typical example. Here we are partnering with SALGA and COCTA and looking at using the DDM1 plans to prioritize the red tape reduction and administrative simplification work that needs to happen in local government. This includes accelerating building plan and zoning applications, simplifying the processes of SMME business registration, licenses and permits, and ensuring municipal bylaws do not burden SMMEs and informal traders. We are piloting a dashboard so that we can better monitor the situation in municipalities and intervene when necessary. The fourth area is the review of legislations that will create synergy between different spheres of government in relation to business licensing. Currently, municipalities have their own systems and procedures, as well as cost structures which have created barriers to doing business. The amended Business Act will establish a common business licensing framework, license fee thresholds, and will give regulatory powers to the department to intervene in business licensing processes when necessary. The amendment will also provide for the establishment of intergovernmental structures on business regulation and business licensing. We are confident that the amendments will make way to Parliament in the second quarter of the new financial year. Honorable Chair, our final area of work concerns building capacity and capability of the department that must lead and coordinate this work. We acknowledge that over the years we have not done enough and with the agency required. We may have been slow to start, but we will be strong to finish what needs to be done. This is why through our new approved organogram, we're filling in vacancies with capable individuals whilst also strengthening accountability and performance management in this area of work. We're creating a one-man small business entity, and we are building our digital platforms to improve access to our products and services. Our newly adopted partnership-based approach to our work and reaching out to all stakeholders will help us ease the regulatory and administrative burden on small businesses. Honourable members, let me conclude by thanking the majority of unions that have signed the wage agreement and further appeal to all those that will or are embarking on protests to do so responsibly and ensure they do not take us back to the July 2021 trauma that saw our businesses being looted and destroyed to ashes. Businesses got severely affected whilst they were struggling to recover from COVID-19, and government had to redirect funds that were meant for other interventions to help provide relief to SMMEs that were adversely affected. It is against this background that we do not encourage vandalism and destruction of properties. While we respect the right to protest, we must equally respect the rights of others to access services which the small businesses are providing. Honorable Chair, as I'm about to leave the platform, let me call upon the honorable members to be exemplary in terms of buying products directly from small businesses. It is the only way that they can thrive. We can do everything in terms of reducing the other measures, but if there's no direct support where in all honorable members and the citizens of our country put or invest their own monies, all of this will be rhetoric and will therefore fail. We owe it to the people that we serve to make sure that small businesses thrive so that we can create the jobs that we're talking about. Thank you so much, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I'll now invite Honorable Batman, Western Cape Chairperson, Budget Committee, who's in the house.
Honorable Chairperson.
Order.
You must come and try and protest here on Monday, EFF.
We are going to protest.
Order members. Let's allow Honorable Batman on the platform.
Honorable Chair, I'm proud to be standing here on behalf of the Western Cape in our respective slot in the NCOP debate. Chairperson, The South African Reserve Bank estimates that the rolling blackouts of about 6 to 12 hours a day or stage 3 or stage 6 outages will trim about 204 million rand and 899 million rand respectively from the national economy daily in 2023. PricewaterhouseCoopers has estimated that rolling blackouts eliminated 5 percentage points of SA's GDP in 2022. Hope is expensive, Chairperson, and the Western Cape is determined to inspire hope for the people of our province, and especially SMMEs with cutting unnecessary red tape, also known as ease of doing business. The biggest red tape currently staring South Africa and the Western Cape in the face is the energy crisis. It was revealed in the latest quarterly labor force survey that 333,000 jobs were created in the Western Cape in the past year, with 167,000 new jobs in the last quarter alone. Further, it was revealed in the latest quarterly labor force survey, which showed that the Western Cape still has the lowest expanded unemployment rate in the country at 26.8%, which is 2.7 percentage points decrease and a margin of 12.6 percentage points better than Gauteng, the next best placed province in terms of unemployment. Chairperson, I'm going to focus on one of the 4 cross-cutting enablers within the Economic Development and Tourism Department, given the emphasis that the province is currently giving to it, and that is energy. And this requires a transversal provincial action plan. The Premier's Energy Council has been established to identify and action solutions to the energy crisis. This includes directing and overseeing the implementation of the Western Cape government's urgent action to relieve both the immediate impacts of load shedding and its medium to long-term energy strategy. The outcome of the Energy Council will also inform the Premier's Energy Digicons that will ensure that consistent, consulted, and the most up-to-date information on energy is effectively and regularly communicated to citizens, communities, and businesses. The Western Cape Minister of Finance recently announced 1.1 billion rand to be set aside over the 2023 MTEF period to give effect to our energy response in the province over the short, medium, and long term. Chairperson, it should be noted that the Western Cape will be funding this 1.1 billion rand of its own money. This is the price of hope.
Point of order, please. Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's calling point of order?
It's me, Chair.
Oh. Yes, Honorable Parenost.
Thank you, Chair. May I call a point of order under Rule 47?
Yes, continue.
During a debate in council, no delegate may converse aloud. As my colleague pointed out earlier, there was a whining noise in the background, which sounded like somebody's speech. There's another noise behind me at the moment, which interrupts me from concentrating on a very good speech made by my colleague here. Unable to concentrate on the excellent speech being made at the moment, Chair. Please, can you rule on that?
Thank you, Honorable Parenost. Honorable members, in terms of our rule, heckling is allowed, but you can't drown the speaker. Let's allow the speaker to debate as we're allowed and we're respected. Let us not drown the speaker. Please, I'm appealing. Sorry for that inconvenience, Honorable Badman. Can you continue?
Thank you, Chair. As long as my time is protected.
You
Chair, the 1.1 billion rand is separate to the 88 million rand we are making available through our Department of Local Government so that our municipalities can keep our water and sewerage pumping. We will spend money on load shedding impact reduction, 126 million rand. We will spend 25 million rand on the green economy ecosystem support, 246 million rand on project preparation support because you need infrastructure, grid generation and financial planning, which will be 27 million rand, capacity to implement 58 million rand, operational matters 114 million rand, and ensuring the establishment of an energy reserve of 501 million rand. Chair, there is no service delivery without energy. You cannot heat, you cannot charge, you cannot light. So how are we going to provide power to our people? In terms of the load shedding impact reduction, we will focus on projects such as demand side management program, alternative energy support for SMMEs, and emergency load shedding packs for approximately 100,000 people. The green economy ecosystem support will focus on a green economy ecosystem support through the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. The project preparation support facility will focus on municipal pooled buying, on help for municipalities to procure from IPPs, for project preparation facility, piloting renewable energy solutions in municipalities, specialist service providers, exploring gas power, and green hydrogen development. In Saldanha Bay IDZ, specifically regarding the green hydrogen development, there is strong market interest in developing green hydrogen hub in the particular area. This project already sees an MOU between the Northern Cape and Western Cape governments to collaborate and develop the West South African Development Community Green Hydrogen Corridor. Further, major World Bank study regarding the green bunker fuels in Saldanha has been initiated by the National Climate Commission, and the IDZ has hosted the reindustrialization of Saldanha Day as part of the South African Green Hydrogen Summit, which was opened by the President and the Premier of the Western Cape collectively. And Sasol and ArcelorMittal SA has signed a joint development agreement to develop carbon capture technology to produce sustainable fuels and chemicals, as well as revitalizing ArcelorMittal's inoperative steel plant in Saldanha Bay to produce and export green steel. In terms of grid generation and financing planning, we will focus on grid and transmission infrastructure upgrade. We will focus on helping municipalities complete the electricity master plan and for a Western Cape integrated development plan. We will, in our capacity to implement, focus on core energy team, internal resourcing, additional capacity for water and wastewater load shedding impacts, and additional capacity for support and implementation. And in operational focus, it will include projects for LED lighting and solar PV, in particular for our Western Cape Education Department. These projects in its totality is 598 million rand. With the additional 501 million rand set aside for our emergency energy reserve, this brings it to the total of 1.1 billion rand over the MTEF period. Particularly, the Municipal Energy Resilience Program will facilitate support and position municipalities for the implementation of energy infrastructure development for economic growth and energy affordability, and aims to contribute towards the target of 500 megawatts of new generation capacity by 2025. The Municipal Energy Resilience Fund has already enabled 13 foundational energy studies in 8 municipalities. Further, the private sector enablement component focused on facilitating energy investment for private sector business, wider adoption of small-scale embedded generation, rooftop solar photovoltaic services, and promotion of wheeling in municipal networks. The enabling infrastructure looked at the grid infrastructure upgrade requirements, including battery storage. Enabling systems looked at the pool buying facilities, funding and financing, and demand and supply enablement. Further, the strategic development and management component looked at the regulatory and legislative inputs, as well as long-term electricity planning and gas and green hydrogen development. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism also continued to drive the uptake of rooftop solar PV in the province, providing 20 municipalities with support and advice around SCCG, wheeling and or utility scale energy matters. And so far, 24 municipalities in the province allow private rooftop PV connections to the grid, with 19 of these allowing households and businesses to be compensated for feeding this back into their networks. And with previous work on the SCCG and growing need for alternative green load shedding, rooftop PV systems installations have increased substantially by 147 megawatts of registered rooftop PV in the Western Cape in the first 2 quarters of 2022-2023 financial year, which represents 2.4 billion rand worth of investment and around 368 jobs. Further, we have directly supported 186 businesses and organizations on water and energy matters, with over 10,000 downloads of our market intelligence report in 2022, covering energy services, utility scale renewable energy, water and electric vehicles. Chairperson, while I would have loved to have touched on the other work of the Western Cape, which we are doing on exports, on investment, skills and entrepreneurship as well, due to the impact of the energy crisis on our province, the people of the Western Cape require our province to take urgent action. It requires us to look at how we are spending every single cent of the people's money as best as possible on the people of the Western Cape. And because of this, Chair, let us just be clear from the Western Cape, we will publish every single cent of our energy expenses the same way we published every single cent of our COVID expenses. Chairperson, the Western Cape is doing everything it possibly can to become the first load shedding free province in South Africa, but we cannot do it alone. We need every person, every business, every NGO, every institution, every MPO to work with us to become load shedding free. And it's only through working together that we'll be able to provide power to the people. If you are a hairdresser, if you are a butcher or a baker, you cannot keep your shop open. If you cannot keep the streets lights open, up, if you cannot keep your robots working, if informal traders cannot work, if your payment systems cannot work, if you are unable to study for exams, if your patients are dying on the surgery table, then as a country, you have failed. Chairperson, I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amanga wodwa.
I'll now, Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. I think, it's quite important to note that if we had to vote now in the House, the DA will win by far because the EFF and the ANC together won't even match the numbers. And that shows who actually prioritize this debate today and take it very seriously.
Order members. Even the people on the virtual platform can participate when it comes to voting. I'll now invite Councillor Ngubane, representative of SALGA, on the virtual platform.
The chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the deputy chairperson, ministers and deputy ministers, MECs, the House chairpersons, and special delegates, colleagues, might take this opportunity to greet you all who are there on virtual and who are there. As an association of all municipalities in South Africa, we believe that the call by President Cyril Ramaphosa, His Excellency, to increase investment drive, reduce red tape, and improve ease of doing business and reduce the cost of doing business can only be achieved with the full participation of local government. All investments, land in a municipality space, and as such, municipalities are conduit towards achieving the national investment target of 1.2 trillion. It goes without saying that an increase in investment, reduction in red tape, and improvement in ease of doing business will contribute to an increase in economic productivity, boost investor confidence, lower unemployment, and improve the country's competitiveness. The role of local government, Mr. Chairperson, is to create a conducive environment for businesses to set up, operate, and expand. It is therefore critical that municipalities play their role through cutting red tape and facilitate both potential and existing businesses in their municipal spaces. Honorable Chair, municipalities ought to be at the forefront in dealing with non-essential procedures, forms, licenses, and regulations that add to the cost of dealing with government. SALGA welcomes the selection of a red tape reduction champion to head the task team in the office of the presidency. Red tape has been identified as one of the culprits negatively affecting the ability of business to compete in a global marketplace as a result of unnecessary costs or delaying the establishment of new businesses and the sustainability and growth of existing enterprises. SALGA is committed to contributing to assisting municipalities in their effort to addressing red tape. Honorable Chairperson, we are happy to inform the House that SALGA is part of the Department of Small Business Development led Interprovincial Task Team on Red Tape Reduction, Ease of Doing Business. The task team comprises of members from National Treasury, World Bank, COGTA, Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, provincial departments, Small Business Initiative, to name a few, and convenes quarterly meetings. SALGA concluded its ease of doing business, push and pull factors study in 2022, and the absence of red tape and efficient service delivery were highlighted as some of the pull factors as businesses decide investment destinations. Red tape, Honorable Chairperson, can be addressed through reducing the number of steps, procedures that are followed during the investment approval. It can also be achieved through reducing time taken to finalize a process within the investment approval process. Administrative simplification in a municipal processes will go a long way in addressing red tape in municipalities. Honorable Chairperson, as we embrace the post-COVID new normal and digital era, we believe that red tape can also be managed through the automation and digitalization of processes. Municipalities are encouraged to eliminate duplication and waste in municipal processes to facilitate quicker investment approval. SALGA applauds the efforts being made by the Department of Home Affairs to introduce world-class e-visa system, visa waivers for certain countries, and remote working visa initiatives. It is our belief that, Honorable Chairperson, these initiatives will go a long way to eliminate red tape that has been frustrating our potential and existing investors and facilitate foreign direct investment. The automation of the business registration by the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission is also commended, and we hope that the same initiatives will be replicated in other government departments and in all three spheres of government. Honorable Chairperson, red tape reduction can be used as a strategy to attract investment and retain business. Awareness raising is needed for all municipal officials to ensure that all officials understand the benefits of red tape reduction and the economic benefits of increased investment. Municipalities can also fast-track investor application processes through placing the investment approval under Mayor's office for quicker turnaround times. In cases where there are high levels of red tape and bureaucracy, businesses are likely to relocate to other municipalities or provinces, and in worse situations, disinvest from the country. As a country, Honorable Chairperson, we are still recovering from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the global economic meltdown, and is proving to be very difficult to attract new investors. It is against this reality that the most plausible strategy is for municipalities to ensure that businesses in their areas of jurisdiction are supported and their municipal-related challenges adequately addressed. We cannot afford to frustrate our investors because the consequences will be dire for the economy at large. We cannot afford to compromise municipal financial sustainability through persistent poverty for municipalities because of massive companies.
Councillor Ngubane.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, let me take Honorable
through you, House Chair. I wonder if the member from Salga is willing to take a question.
Councillor Ngubane, are you willing to take a question?
Gladly, I can take it, sir.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can ask Honorable Lund.
Thank you. As the representative for Salga here, and we're speaking about red tape, the councillor, in his opinion, is it because of the red tape that the president did not declare the dollars in his couch?
That's irrelevant.
Well, I think that is not part of this discussion and deliberation, sir. It's for something for another meeting at another time if some people feel it is important. But for now, it's not so important as we are dealing with this subject.
Yes,
yes. You can continue and with your speech, Honorable Ngubane, Councillor Ngubane.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I believe that as the president of the country receives pledges for the achievement of the investment target of 1.2 million municipalities can contribute towards the actualization of increased investment through creating a conducive environment for business by cutting red tape. SALGA encourages municipalities to employ competent officials who would handhold and support investors to maneuver through government bureaucracy. Honorable Chairperson, that was supposed to be our submission for today. Well, the honorable colleague, I'll invite him at another level, but I think that was not really relevant for today's business. I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ngubane. Thank you, Councillor Ngubane, Salga representative. Thank you. I will now invite Honorable Braden Seth, Honorable Sebangena.
Honourable Chairperson, Ministers, Members, fellow South Africans. The topic today is very wide. My colleagues, my Afrikaans colleagues, Honourable Lont, has said to me, "Dis so wyd as die Here se genade," or it's as wide as the Lord's mercy. There have been various speakers today, like the Honourable Boshoff, who have spoken about red tape and its effect on business. Others have spoken and spoken and spoken. There have been lots and lots of ministerial promises today. I, however, would like to comment on the complete and utter mess that this government has made of intergovernmental relations. In fact, colleagues, there is more ingenuity, foresight, and scenario planning in a spaza shop than in this government. But that is an insult to spaza shops, so I apologize to them. The problem at the heart of this issue is that the ANC is policy rich, but unfortunately implementation poor. Over the last 2 decades, they have constructed a web of regulations, partly to satisfy Stalinist fantasies, and partly to try, in vain, the comrades from eating. So they've ended up tangled in a web and working in silos, not coordinating, not cooperating, and certainly not developing. Gone are the principles of professional ethics and effective use of resources. Honourable Lont told us today that the DA government in the Western Cape have proven that this in fact can be done. Red tape reduction unit in the Western Cape, one that actually works, has achieved notable results. As Honourable Lont pointed out, 167,000 jobs, 1 billion rand saved, and real solutions in problem departments such as public works, transport, tourism, and agriculture. My colleague in KZN, Honourable Mayor, who serves on the COGTA committee there, offered me a bit of advice for today's speech. He said, "Honourable Tim, make it simple. Just tell them to pay on time. Pay on time." Well, it's interesting that the Western Cape is the only province in the country that pays all its suppliers within 30 days. So they got that right. Again, colleagues, the problem with the ANC is that they are policy rich, but implementation poor. One would say implementation poverty stricken. Honourable Dodova agreed with us. You can't get things done. The bottom line, colleagues, is that talk is cheap, but actions are priceless. Talk is cheap, but actions take hard work. From Honourable Bartman's speech, it's quite clear that the DA takes intergovernmental relations seriously and backs them up with action, action, action. Unfortunately, the ANC does not. There's been a lot of muttering today from my EFF brothers and sisters, okay? But I say this to them, get into government somewhere and then we'll compare notes, okay? The bottom line, folks, and I'll end with this, Chairperson, is that the voters of South Africa are noticing the difference between the ANC governments and the DA governments. And the voters will serve notice on the ANC in 2024. Siyabonga.
Thank you, Honourable Pratenset. I'll now invite Honourable Miemang.
Thank you, House Chair. to honorable members of this House, the Minister of COCTA and the Minister of Small Business, Excellencies and distinguished guests. Indeed, there is a need to address legislation and regulatory processes that represent barriers to business as a result of red tape and the need to build an enabling environment for business, especially SMEs, for faster growth and development. And in order to locate this theme, Honorable House Chair, it's important just to indicate that indeed small, medium, micro enterprises plays a critical role in many economies, especially in developing nations. South Africa also regards SMEs as an important area of driving inclusive growth and job creation. And we have seen this through the establishment of Small Business Development Department, which is indeed a testimony to ANC's prioritization of the importance of small, medium, and micro enterprise in the economy. Honorable House Chair, the World Bank predicts that small, medium, and micro enterprises business contribute greatly to job creation and in economic development globally. Globally, House Chair, 90% of businesses are SMEs, and they account more than 50% of employment worldwide, with SMEs contributing up to 40% of national income in emerging economies. This is further argued that these numbers are higher when informal small medium enterprises are included. The World Bank further estimates that 600 million jobs will be needed by 2030 to place the growing global workforce that is estimated. Indeed, this puts SME development on top of the agenda for many developing countries worldwide, because SMEs account for a greater number of jobs. However, challenges such as access to funding, to mention just but one, hinder the success of these businesses. Finance is most cited as a challenge in both emerging and developing countries. In our country, the tedious and complex red tape is often cited as among the challenges. In South African context, small, medium, and medium enterprises accounts for about 50% to 60% of the total labor force and contribute around 34% towards the gross domestic product. Furthermore, according to a study conducted by the Department of Trade and Industry, small, micro, and medium enterprises comprises about 90% of the formalized business in South Africa. Honorable House Chair, the Youth Enterprise Development Strategy of the DTI suggests that though the contribution of SMEs is significant in the South African context, limited and poor participation of young people in the economy remains a challenge. This is not good, as having youth not participating in the economy affects the country in many negative ways. Red tape is one of the most cited challenges for SMEs. In South Africa, there is a need to disable an enabling environment for SME growth and job creation. In this regard, government should act as an enabler, business growth and prosperity through a progressive legislative and regulatory process that helps SME growth. It's important to understand that red tape occurs when government administrators misapply rules, regulations, and procedural functions such that the outcomes are different from the ones intended. Or it can also be understood as an occurring mismatch between the regulatory intention and administrative processes to implement procedures and regulations. I guess that the Western Cape High Court has just borne testimony to this assertion. Strides made in the SME space. It's important to understand that there has been many interventions that were outlined by the Minister of Small Business Development in terms of ensuring that interventions are put in place to address and allay the red tapes. This also serves as a perfect initiative in coordinating the efforts of government, private sector, and government financing agencies in helping SMEs thrive. It is important to appreciate the fact that in providing leadership by the Minister of Small Business Development in terms of consolidating the provincial baseline, this was indeed leadership to ensure that the challenges that are associated with the lack of strategy and lack of guidelines are indeed mapped out in such a way that there is a clear strategy in terms of dealing with that. The agencies under the department have created programs for youth, rural communities, people with disabilities, though there is more than that can be done. Honorable House Chair, it is important to appreciate the fact that many agencies work in silos while they serve the same constituency, which is SMMEs. Therefore, district development model is one platform to ensure that an enabling environment for SMME through coordinating the efforts agencies indeed bears fruits, and interventions by different government spheres for maximum impact does take place. Also, it is important, Honorable House Chair, to appreciate the fact that another critical element is to ensure that big business becomes a partner to SMMEs to have an inclusive business ecosystem, which is redistributive for various economic players. We heard from the Honorable Minister when he outlined who are the role players in the ecosystem. Big business should be playing a partnership role to SMMEs, and the government should use regulatory and incentive interventions to encourage big corporations to buy locally produced goods and services. This can be in a form of supporting SMMEs and cooperatives. A regulatory or incentive method should be made to encourage big business to invest locally and not leave communities behind. This is where proactive local economic development needs to play their proactive role. We also need to put in place stringent competition laws which regulate sectors to address market concentration, which creates a barrier as part of the red tape for small businesses. Barriers to entry for small and medium enterprises, including high exit rates of small and medium enterprises. For example, 40% of SMEs do not survive their first year, 60% their second year, and 90% their first 10 years after inception. It is important that we appreciate the fact that small and medium enterprises represent 95% of firms, but only 24% of tax paying, as opposed to the 5% large firms worth 70% value by tax paying. If the principle that government is the biggest procurer of goods and services is to be accepted, it means government should be directing most of its resources to larger firms instead of small medium enterprises. Small medium enterprises formal sector contribute 30% to employment. The skewed structure therefore constrains employment creation, which intensifies household inequalities. Big firms continue to swallow small growing firms through merger and acquisition. We must address market concentration to create inclusive growth and increase the market share of SMMEs. We therefore appreciate the leadership role that is given by the Competition Commission to amend the Competition Act, which is quite critical in terms of addressing concentration and participation. But competition law alone cannot achieve the transformation of the economy structure, House Chair. Government levers impact economic structure and can be forecast to address entrenched concentration, such as legislation and regulations, licensing and procurement, investment incentives, and support services and technology development. I believe that if we can ask the leader or the manager of the company that was discriminated against in terms of who is the biggest red tape, he will say the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure. Honorable House Chair, the ANC believes that the national strategy for microenterprise must be developed such that it includes the development of microfinance act to help a strong national guide.
Does the Honorable Moimang know what infrastructure is?
Will need
Chair,
to
on point
data
of order.
driven to the country.
Honorable Mema, sorry, let me take it on point of
I
order.
raise in the point. of
Honorable
or-
Nabuskagne.
I raise in the point of order on the rule that a speaker should not mislead the House. I would like to, through you, Chair, to know where did the speaker verify these facts that he is producing here?
It's a point for debate. Let's allow the debate to continue, Honorable Nabuskagne. Continue, Honorable Mema.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, the ANC believes that the national strategy for microenterprise must be developed such that it includes the development of a microfinance act to help a strong national guide to enable SMMEs. This strategy will need to data drive the country to navigate this complex sector of red tape reduction. Indeed, the district development model should be employed to empower SMMEs such that big business and government become partners and enablers to SMME growth, with big business being partners and government being partners and enablers. Honorable House Chair, the ANC believe that infrastructure rollout, maintenance of the infrastructure should be done effectively and with speed to create environment for SMMEs to thrive. Providing reliable electricity supply, roads and other economic infrastructure, including digital infrastructure, is quite critical. It is important, Honorable House Chair, to appreciate the fact that South Africa is not an anarchist state. South Africa is governed by the Constitution, and the Constitution of the country captures the values as rule of law, as rationality, and also transparency. And it's always important to ensure that in taking your decision as an administrative body, facts must be able to guide your ultimate decision. Where you are found to be on the other side in terms of linking the conclusion and the process and the facts, the court as an arbiter will always intervene, and it is going to set aside your decision. It is important in conclusion, Honorable House Chair, to appreciate the fact that through this judgment, which is a public document, it is important that a reflection has to be made in terms of how do we ensure that Black contractors are not on the receiving side of big companies. It is important to ensure that we must be seen to be adhering to our supply chain management processes so that small, medium enterprises are indeed guided and protected. It is important in conclusion, House Chair, that the SMME space is very important in driving inclusive economic growth and job creation. In the spirit of not leaving anyone behind, we need the government to create impactful and creative legislative and regulatory measures to enable the success of the SMMEs. It is also important for big business to also act as a partner to SMMEs through deliberate support in the efforts to grow our economy and create an employment. And therefore, Chairperson, an ANC-led government will always be on the side of Fourie Point in his quest to get justice and ensure that supply chain management processes of this country is not abused. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Moema.
Well done, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. I'll now invite Honorable TSC Totovu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Once more, firstly, I want to rise to acknowledge and appreciate all the contributions made in this important debate. What is quite clear and fundamental is that this debate is very much important. It is critical in the life of our own country. And the debate sends a very cogent message. And the message is that we must all work together. We must coordinate our efforts in an interdisciplinary way to ensure that we reduce red tape within government, we reduce bottlenecks, we become effective and efficient in what we do, so that all the developmental objectives that we have placed, especially those which are encapsulated in the National Development Plan, are realized. I think this is a bottom line, and I think the message is clear that we must work as a team. We must work in unison for the realization of those particular objectives. But on the other hand, Honorable Chair, I understand we are just on the verge of an election year, and some parties, especially the DA, doesn't play the ball, is playing the man. They have spent much of the time praising themselves, doing what I call a breast-beating bravado about their so-called successes where they govern, whereas the contrary can show that the DA even itself has got its own limitations, has got its own problems, and there is crisis in some of the municipalities and in the Western Cape where they govern. And for me, I understand that whatever it takes, they will attack the ANC, they will throw the mud at the ANC, they will criticize, and criticism is okay. If it is self-criticism, if it is constructive criticism, it's okay because in itself is empowering. But if you do it because you want to pander into populism, if you do it because you want to score cheap political points, it is something else. And I think, as I indicated in the past, we will not sit back in a helpless surrender. We will not fold our arms when people perpetuate issues that are untruth, when they perpetuate things that are incorrect. I'll just make a typical example, Honorable Chair. I was in Johannesburg yesterday. The sewer spillages that are there, the water are running in the streets. Some of the buildings are closed, and it is where the DA was governing in the last 7 years or so. The situation is not as rosy as they try to project, that they are an icon of good morality and judgment, that they are an icon of good service delivery in terms of doing what they are doing, and their record is as clean as they purport it to be. Johannesburg is in crisis, and as we see it now, a government, a coalition government that they led has collapsed, and we have a new government that is trying to clean up the mess that the DA has created. The situation is worse in Tshwane, where in which they even try to subvert the electoral process by ensuring that they force their own members who do not even agree with them, that they give them numbers in order for them to vote and circumvent the democratic process as we understand it of secret ballot. It is precisely because where they governed, there were problems of red tape. And even the reports of the Auditor General have shown that this government that was led by the DA has its own fundamental problems. Now, they cannot come here and play to the gallery and make themselves smart as if they know everything. I don't agree with that, Honorable Chair. All that I'm saying is that the issue on the table about the red tape is an important question that is confronting the country, that is confronting all levels of government. Whether it is provincial government, is national government, is local government.
As you conclude, Honorable Totovu.
Because if we work together, if all the departments work together, if the players come together in a form of district development model,
time up,
Totovu,
time up.
In terms of alleviating the problem that we are facing. All that I'm saying, Honorable Chair, as I conclude, is that
time up.
The issues that are on the
order,
table
let's
are
allow
quite
him to
important.
conclude.
And as a country, we must grapple with those issues. We must attend them to the best interest of our own people. We must do it because once we do it, it can go a long way in terms of addressing the fundamental problem that our country is facing, especially of crime, of unemployment, of poverty and inequality, where people are living. And working together, it can go a long way in terms of realizing that. And as the African National Congress, we are the first ones to admit that, yes, there are problems, but we're doing something to address to those particular problems, especially when these problems affect the historically disadvantaged people. They affect the vulnerable people.
Honorable House Chair.
The time is up.
So,
yes, as I conclude, I want to say thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for the debate and even the way
Chairperson, point of order.
This particular debate. And I agree with you about everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair.
Thank you.
To your left.
Honorable members,
Honorable House Chair.
thank you. Who's calling me?
Either left.
Honorable Lord.
Honorable House Chair, I do think that when you and the other chairs are in the front, you have the opportunity and you have the choice to tell people to come to the House and not have these hybrid sittings anymore. It's obviously now 3-4 years down. Some of the members still do not know how to use the equipment. So I do think sometime, at the very least,
Honorable Lord,
people participating.
What is this
in the
man
debate
trying to say?
on the-
Honorable members,
Yabona
let me tell you
kunywe
something.
jeans.
Yes,
You are
but-
unfair.
Lapha.
Honorable Lord, order members. Honorable Lord,
Jean apha
Honorable
ehousing.
Lord, you are unfair because when I was commending the minister of COGTA, I did indicate that hopefully others can learn on what she did. That is why when I was even calling Honorable Batman, I said it's in the House because we appreciate, especially those that are not even our members that are in the House when they're debating, because they're that's what we appreciate, and it's making it to be a seamless exercise for the debate. So it's something that will be attended. But honorable members, thank you. That concludes the debate. I wish to thank the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Regional Affairs, Minister of Small Business Development, MECs, SALGA representatives, all permanent delegates and special delegates for availing themselves for this very important debate. On behalf of the leadership led by Ntate Masondo, Deputy Chairman Lucas, and Honorable Chief Whip Ntate Mugai, as the NCOP, once again, Honorable panel host, we're saying happy birthday, have many more happy years ahead as the NCOP. Honorable delegates, that concludes the business of the day. The House is adjourned.